Okey-doke. Okay, we have two documents. We have a stapled document and a bound document. Stapled document is what I'll cover first. This letter is had different names over the years. Management letter, governance letter is what it's called now. The first couple pages are kind of like a boilerplate. If there were differences or if there were difficulties encountered in the audit, we would note it there. Go to page 3, numbered page 3. It's actually the fourth page with the title page. And what we do, if you remember, is we take whatever findings we had from the previous year and we bring them forward. And we note anything that's been done on it, anything that's still lacking. So the first point was accounting policies and procedures. There's still a few of those that are still not been addressed. These are recommendations, you have to remember. We make recommendations as best practices. But these are ones that are still outstanding at this point, and they've been worked on. I have a lot of entities that try to take 2 or 3 policies a year and get them done, and so that's just maybe a way to kind of chip away at it. The second one on the next page is information technology issue. If you remember, this was passwords that when employees were terminated, they maybe weren't taken off the system or weren't changed, whatever the thing was. And this started back in actually 14. We've been following this one, and in 17 we noted there was no terminated employees that were not canceled from the computer system, so that no longer is this a point. Once it goes off, then we'd have to have another new finding before we would, on anything, new finding before it would come back on. So this one's taken care of. The next one, bond and interest fund and the special road and bridge fund. These funds were closed in 16, and however, not resulting in a budget violation due to the closing of the fund. There were no funds closed in the year that we did 17, so this is no longer a condition. The fourth one, is the budget violation in the Register of Deeds fund last year, and we did not have any budget violations this year. The last one on the prior points is depository coverage. This is one we've talked about several different times. The way we state this is we state the condition that was previously noted, and then in the middle, so I'll just basically read the middle status paragraph. During 2017, 2 banks were again found to have depository coverage deficiencies. One bank was deficient for 6 days in January of 17, with the highest deficiency being $75,703. 7 days in June, with the highest deficiency being $280,744. The second bank was deficient 1 day in January with a deficiency of $4,414,071. And I just went to a Kansas Banker Association chief financial officers, and this is something that is a challenge. They noted it. We talked about it a little bit even there. Getting pledged securities, and you know that as a banker. The reason these are anything under 10 days is most of the time a rollover. So like something matures, it pulls out as the pledged security, and the replacement doesn't come into play until so that's what most of these are. Now, you'd probably say the same, but bankers don't really care for pledged security. It's something that they have to do. It's 100% pledge, but it ties up their ass. There's just a lot to it, and the banker said, well, it's not my problem. I have to do it, but I'm not the one responsible. It's not a statutory violation in my case. It's a statutory violation in case of whoever's tracking it, whether it's the treasurer, typically the treasurer, but if there's not an active treasurer, then like in the city, it'll be the city clerk, that will track that. Anyway, that's where we're at there, and it's not like there's multiple days here, but I think the one thing hopefully people understand here is the FDIC coverage is $250,000. We take the conservative approach. Even though there might be multiple accounts at that bank, we do not they have to meet really specific standard to get that second 250. We never do that. We always say there's 250, and anything over that should be pledged, and for conservative purposes. And if that bank would happen just in that window go down, then what would happen there is you would be out the money if the bank did not resell. Now, that's usually banks resell if they go under. Stan State, I told you the story before, but Stan State, where I grew up, did not resell. And so in that case, you become a general creditor. My grandma got 55% of her interest for that month. And that's what you get. So like any of these overages here, if that was the case, you would get 55% or whatever the general creditors got from the bank. That's the way it works. Okay?
Usually on this report, a day or two is, in this department is the most we ever see.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand the rollover, what you're talking about there, but 7 days seems to be.
Yeah, 7 to 10 is kind of the height. I mean, that's where you probably speak maybe better than that to me because you're in daily operations, but that's pretty common. Yeah, you have to stay on top of it. It's something you have to have a tracking system. It's really easy just to, oh yeah, we got plenty of coverage. And what makes it complicated, see, is you have to, or a little more complicated, you have your pledged securities, which you get a list once a month, and you know if those are on or off, okay. The kicker is, let's just say you have 2 CDs, 4 bank accounts, and maybe there's bank accounts that aren't even like the treasurer's bank account. So like, let's just say I'm trying to think of some other office has a bank account, that gets added into it. So whatever those changing balances, up and down balances are over here, that is matched against these pledged securities. So if there's big deposits floating around here, like a certain, and with EFT today, electronic funds transfer, boom, it goes into the account. You may not know it till, yeah, and so that's what makes it a little tougher.
Well, there's like, the 1 or 2 days is kind of inevitable because you have these securities, investments that come due, and most of the banks we deal with are, well, not all of them, but you take a community bank, they'll rely on expertise on a new investment if they're going to reinvest it with another business that they contract with to help with that kind of stuff. And 1 day, 2 day lag is not unusual at all. Now 7's getting a little much.
Pushing it. Yeah. Anyway, there were no other current year points, so everybody seems to be doing a good job. Somebody's got cleared up, which is always a yippee for the auditor to keep carrying them on. The last thing that we put in here, and this is something that I know that's been asked about. Not so much the receipts. You can see what the general receipts are on the first graph there. The more the cash balances, these are unencumbered cash balances at each of the year ends for the last 5 years, and you can kind of see how they went up a little bit there in the middle, but it kind of depends on the spending patterns and what gets transferred or what doesn't get transferred. But one thing that this does, and I know at budget time we talked about this quite a bit, when you see balances staying flat, then things have been taken care of. Now, like things that get you in trouble, if you look over to the 3rd page, this is one that's concerning to me, is employee benefits. So you see the cash balance in 13, it'd be the second one on page 10, number 10 at the top. You see 269 and 13, and at the end of 17 is 112. And I don't know, what's your employee benefits run in 1 month? I don't know this. Well, I could divide it, but that one there is getting probably a little bit. Yeah, so you have roughly in 16, it's about 100,000. It's 1.4 million, so a little over 100,000 a month. 17's actual expenditures was 1.5 million, so we're creeping up above the 100,000, 120, whatever there is to make that work. And it dropped down to 112. So anyway, that's just that's why I looked at, that's why I do these 5 years, kind of look to see if we're staying flat or we're, going up or down, whichever way. And you can see at the park, the last one there on that same page, the reason there's cash balances there is because you've saved up money, to do some of those things out there, the electrical, the water, whatever else. And that's what you'll typically see if there is a buildup of cash balances. It'll be because of whatever project you've got set in there. Another perfect example, it's on the next page, capital improvements. We went from 13 of 2.5 million, a high of 5 million, and then dropped back to 2.7 million. And then there's a project going on right now, I believe, aren't you working on 330? No.
Okay.
Transfer station?
No, we haven't
Oh, you didn't do
committed
that?
any
Oh, okay,
funds
okay.
yet.
Okay.
They're looking at some
Yeah.
blacktop
Road
roads
stuff, yeah.
potentially. But
But anyway, you can see how that one, and you can see in the next one, I'm maybe going too far here if you don't want to hear it, but the next one you can see it went from 1 million to 2.6 million, but the reason being is about 3 years ago, that's when you started putting that extra line in for $1 million, for blacktop, and started putting that money away to spend for those purposes. But those graphs are, numbers are numbers, but visual sometimes, you look at visuals and you see those highs and lows, and we'll talk about cash just a little bit more here when we get on to statement 1. Any questions on the staple? Let's stay on time here.
you're fine.
Okay. The next one we'll look at is the bound document. And flip into, it's our letterhead, so it's about the 5th page in. One I like to bring people's attention to, if you look at the second paragraph, management's responsibility for the financial statement. Still today, we can prepare this financial statement, okay? And so with that preparation, though, we have to have signed off by somebody here that has the skill, knowledge, and experience to be able to understand that, and that would be Tina. Signed off, looks through it, and make sure it's there. But what this paragraph says there, I'm going to go down to be the last sentence. Management is also responsible for the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement that is free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. What that says is internal controls are your responsibility over these financial statements. So like if there are transactions happening at a low level, those low level transactions feed up into, monthly transactions, which feed into annual transactions. And so those controls over those daily transactions are responsibility of management. And that would be the Board of Commissioners, that would be anybody that's in a financial management position. At some point, I keep saying this, I'm going to be retired probably before it's happening, but at some point, auditors are not going to be able to do the financial statement. It's either going to have to be contracted by some other firm to do it, or you hire internally. But today, we can still do it, as long as we have someone to sign off on it and say, these are your financial statements, not ours, and it goes from there. The reason we're hired is on the next page, at the top, the paragraph, unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above presents fairly, second paragraph there, in all material respects, the aggregate cash and unencumbered cash balance of Marion County as of December 31st, and the aggregate receipts and expenditures for the year that entered in accordance with financial reporting provisions, okay? So that in all material respects is the key word there. If we audited down to the level of each transaction, on every office, that audit would be incredibly expensive, because we'd have to look at. Now, back in the 70s when I started, they actually had a statute on the books, or 80s, that you had to look at every purchase order. So I remember still, it kind of was over when I started, but Oakley School District, Mr. Stewart, Emory Furnace Stewart used to be the firm. He sat there literally with a stack of things, and that's all he did for 4 days. What good is that, dude? I mean, you might see something that jumps out, but the way that auditing is done today is on risk-based, okay? And so we look at the internal controls, and we look at what's going on in the county. Is there an economic risk because of something, maybe you've lost some, some big industries? Is there a risk of multiple changes of employees in certain departments? So like if a key person in a department would go that's responsible for finances, there'd be things like that, and that's the risk assessment that you go in and do each year to see where the risks are, and that's every year you plan an audit. That's the way you figure out where the risks are, and that's what we audit you, is the risk. So if we found out certain things in a certain area, it may not meet the material, but a combination of internal control breakdowns together could be material. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So if you had multiple internal control problems, that means there's something probably either in management or in the people that are responsible for those internal controls, funds every day, maybe a breakdown. That's the paragraph. That's what you hire us for, is you want an opinion on that. The next page is the only statement in this financial statement. It's statement 1, and we've talked about this several different times. This gives you a good overview. One of the questions that does come up is go to the 3rd page here, and I'll explain this one more time. Actually, hold on page 2 of that statement 1 and look at the bottom of that page. So like 2 of 3, statement 1, there's a number at the bottom right-hand corner, 12,518,000, okay? And then you go down to the next page, on page 3, you see 12,518. Okay, so all these bank accounts there, that 27 million, when someone looks at that at the end of the year, they go, wow, the county's got a lot of money. Okay, but that 27 million, you have to remember, at this point in time, this window, half of that is other entities. Half of that money, because the 14,657 is on another schedule back there, school districts, cities, the different entities, the deal, that's called agency money. Agency means you're only acting as an agent for those people to run it through your entity to the point that it gets distributed. So that's why it's misleading sometimes when this 12/31 financial statement comes out, because they look at that, wow, $27 million in the bank, what's going on here? Okay, and so that's why I always try to explain that, because the 12 then ties to this page 2 up here on the right-hand column. That is the amount that is in the funds that are county funds and managed by you, the county commissioner, and the department heads. And you can quickly go up that right-hand column and see the bigger numbers that make up that 12. And the reason I spend a little more time here is I want to make sure people understand this, because I think 27 does sound like a lot, and even 12 sounds like a lot, but when you start backing off, if you just go up here and look at 12 million and go up that column, 3,097,000 is capital improvements, that's the roads, okay? The next one, jail, bond, and interest at that time was 1.8 million, okay? And then if you flip over to the next page, road and bridge was 2.6 million. So there's, you round it off, 3, 2, and 3. So there's 8. 8 of the 12 million is in 3 funds. 2 of those funds are capital project funds, and even the road and bridge fund has those line items for blacktop roads and all that. So that of that 12.5, then that drops you down to 4, roughly 4, a little over 4 million, 4.5 million. That is spread through all the other funds. And the total expenditures, if you look on that second page of 3, it's a little bit under 2 million a month. 19,223,354 in the 3rd column from the left is expenditure total, 19,223,354. Divide that by 12, and that'll give you a good idea of what it takes to run the county. That's a lot of money every month. So that's why there's a cash balance there to help that, because you can't go down and get a line of credit like, you know, businesses can. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Page 9, some of this stuff we've talked about in budget over and over, but this is a good summary of your debt. If you look at note 6 there at the bottom of 9 and the top and the full page on 10, what this does is this shows you what's outstanding down at the bottom on the debt, and then the next page shows you the payments over 5 years, the single payments, and then they're actually grouped together after 5. But yours is actually paid off in 2023. So anyway, that gives you a good idea of what capital leases you have when they run out, and we talk about that a lot when we do budget work. Let's see, going to the next, that's the statement, and then we start schedules on 14. 14 is the summary budget schedule. If there were any non-bracketed numbers on the right-hand column there, that would be a budget violation. And as we noted earlier in the letter, there were no budget violations this year, so that's taken care of. And then page 15 is where it starts. Each one, if you wanted to go back, and this is not as much detail as your general ledger, but it's, we put it at a pretty good level of receipts and expenditures, and by departments, and you can kind of look at what was budgeted. I always like to look back at it, because, you know, when you talk, okay, so what you have to remember, we're doing, back in July, we were doing 19's budget. So these are, it's hard to keep all this going, but we had to do it. Huh?
You're talking 2 years ago.
Yeah, so we're doing 19's budget, we're in the middle of 18, and this is 17, and it actually compares back to 16. And so it's a good window of looking back to have a history and a good understanding department by department. You know, what is there certain things that went on in certain departments that I wonder why would that line be that way? And that's good ways to, you know, and why did we budget that way back there? Because you're budgeting 18 months ahead in a sense, because we're in July in 19's budget, and we're budgeting for a full year of 19. So there's quite a window there. But I'm not going through all the detail. We went through all that at budget time. I don't think you want that much excitement. Go back to page 56, and this is the what's called the agency schedule. And this is how that 14 million that we saw up on statement 1 is summarized by all the different, whether it's distributable funds. Most of it is 12 million in distributable funds, very top line up there on the top of 56. The top line is like all the different undistributed taxes. The taxes were collected December 20th and not distributed till January 20th. But the rest of these are just different funds that are outstanding. Improvement districts have money, and they kind of use you as a bank. You know, that $588,000. Some of it's the state money where you're holding it for either, you know, payroll taxes or whatever. The next page is the County Extension Council. This actually reflects in what's called Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide. This is the full picture of what the Extension Council actually runs through their account. In the Kansas Municipal Audit Guide, Accounting and Audit Guide, you actually show the K-State portion. So if you look up there on the second line, KSU salary participation, that would be the portion K-State puts forward, even though it didn't run through your bank account. It's presented that way so that you see the full picture of the Extension Council. And you can kind of have a feeling there. And then one last, well, actually a couple, 3 I add here. These are not required, but I just continue to put them in here because I think they give you good information. On 58, this is the Special Auto Fund. This is the fund that, you know, over the years has got a lot of attention in the state of Kansas. This balance, this 92,837 that you see here at 17, would have been deposited in the county general by June 1st. That's the requirement. That money has to be deposited. Whatever's left over in the county special auto is deposited in the general fund. Last year she would have deposited 54,209, very top column there. 92 this year. One year I was doing Osage County, and she had it down to $10.16. And they looked at me, the commissioners did, and they said, I think she should have your job, Scott, if she got their dollars down that far, you know, because this money, what's the kicker on this one is, it's very gray. So like, if you're operating the special auto, that's why I still put it in here. If you're operating special auto, and you have a deputy and the county treasurer and different supplies and opportunities over here in the county treasurer's office, it can be allocated however their heart desires. And so what they end up doing is, a lot of times, and some I've had them happen, is that's why that balance will get down so low, is because they'll end up allocating a lot over here to run the county treasurer's office. Okay, so that's a fairly healthy balance, 92,000. But that's why I keep putting it in here, because the way the statute's written, and I even went for the legislature in, I don't know what that was, 94. I had 16 county treasurers behind me throwing daggers at me, but you know, standing up for it, because it was a problem in this county that I was working on, and it didn't not get changed. They strengthened some internal control, but that's one you always want to keep your eye on, the way the statute's written. The next one is the district court. I keep putting this in here, and this is also the administrative court judge of the state of Kansas likes to see this schedule in here so that they can watch each county and what the activity is from an audit standpoint. But this is the activity that goes through upstairs in the district court. You can see down here how much the disbursements, payments to county, payments to state treasurer, and payment to others. Payment to others typically is restitution. So like if they're put in a situation where they're required to pay back $10,000 to somebody, that's where that would go. Okay, and so that never shows up on your books. That's why I keep that in here. This is one that flows through there. And then the last one is the reconciliation of the 16 tax roll that was distributed in 17. So what this really is the top half up here is what the county clerk abstract for the tax roll is, with all the adjustment, like when you add or abate any taxes in here through official action, that's where it goes, adds or subtracts. The bottom half is what actually is collected of that. So of that 20,616,114, the clerk up there, the adjusted, you go down, you see the collections, then you get down to delinquency. So at end of 17, you would have had 36,172 in delinquent personal property and 352,043 of real estate. But when we set those off and balance that out, you're off $12. So that's not bad for $21 million that runs through your county. That's why I keep that one there. That is not a required money either. But that is, if I know that 21 million of the, 19 million is your expenditures. So I mean that's a big number. 21 million of your revenue going through is reconciled to $12. Now there could be crazy things going on. I'm not saying there's not, but I feel pretty good. You get the old auditor warm and fuzzy feeling that things are hopefully pretty good. Any questions?
In other counties,
Yep.
on the treasurer's special auto fund,
Yep.
what does some of them end up as a balance in that?
The lowest of her has that $10.16. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You'll see it.
What's an
Like-
average?
I don't know.
25, 30,000?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. See, here's where it gets. And that's why I went for the legislature, and I'll end with this. She was using it. She bought at that time. This you have to remember this in the '90s, but she had 8 VCRs she bought out of that fund for training. I said, well, what do you do? Have a VCR for each employee in your office? And then she bought back then you have to remember the old 8mm cameras, they're really nice. At that time they were nice. She got, what she'd do is she'd buy all these extra office supplies, tons of 15,000 pens, writing pens. I go, why do you need 15,000? I said, there's only 13,000 citizens in the whole county. I need 15,000. She bought it for bonuses. And this company was giving her bonuses for how much she bought. So she had this one room back there just stashed with stuff, and she's getting all these. That's where she got these cameras and all this as bonuses. because she bought so much. The county was a good employee, or a good customer.
Yeah, good customer.
That's what I have.
Very good.
Any other questions, or anything that comes up, let me know, and, really, appreciate your business, really coming over
Scott?
and learning.
Scott?
Yep, thank you, thank you. Okay.
Have a good
If your day gets any more exciting than that, then, I feel for you.
one. Have a good one.
Have a good one, Scott.
Appreciate that.
Okay, next is administrative business.
Okay.
Pam, what you got?
Okay. Don't have a whole lot this morning.
What?
Oh, I need, anything else?
No, do you have something else?
Nope, no, I just, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, sir?
Thanking me for not
What
running
is
over.
SJH&L?
Scott, Jantz, Hawk, and Lloyd. That's the abbreviation for the name of our CPA.
That's
his
the
company.
firm.
It's,
That's the firm.
yeah, it's Swindle, Jansen, Hawk, and Lloyd, Inc.
Oh,
LLC, I'm sorry.
thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you go ahead?
I have the minutes of September 17th.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of September 17th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 17th.
I have a motion by Kent. Do I have a second?
Was that? I was gonna
Second.
have that one, right?
What's that?
I was late on that one.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know-
was late on that one, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll second. I just done, remember, I missed that one.
Okay, second by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 And then I have the minutes of September 18th.
And do I have a motion to accept the minutes of
I'll
September
make that motion.
18th? Motion by Randy,
Second.
second by Kent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There's a signature, one on each side.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you. The only other thing that I have is the WIC agreement. That's from Deidre. And was in your packet, and it just needs this signature of the chairman in two spots here.
Okay. It says on both sides. There's one side,
Over here.
this one. Oh, yeah, okay.
And then where the other sticky is, it's on a different page, Diane.
Do I need to print or not? It says print.
No, I can fill all that in for you.
There you go.
And that, I believe, is all I have for administrative.
Okay, that's pretty quick. Well, Jesse's here, so Jesse, you go right ahead.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, I have two new hires, administrative assistant downstairs named Vicki James just starting out, and a seasonal help, part-time, Lawrence Lanning.
Okay, a new road and bridge assistant, as you said, Victoria James for $2,061. And a part-time seasonal help for $12 an hour, who is Lawrence Lannon.
Where did you hire at the pay rate on the office assistant down there? How did you come up with it? I don't know.
I just went with our pay grade,
Pay grade.
pay scale.
Okay.
Just starting out wage.
Gene's inexperienced.
Experienced
Well,
blade operator, yes.
Yes.
He'll be running the blade throughout the county.
Good.
Here is a permit for Mound Ridge Telephone. They would like to bore a fiber across the intersection of Falcon and 160th, going off to the northwest into private land.
This is all pretty normal, standard,
Yes.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
You get this then? Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
What I have here is a contract here, 3 different agreements for the construction, engineering, inspection services of the number 40 bridge on the Dickinson County, Marion County line. The projected start date is October 15th, and it's looking to be about a 4 to 6 month project. The contracts here, all the red spots are here for everyone's signatures.
All threads are just kind
It looks like all three. Want to get that going. We did put that online as far as the projected start date, just so you three know.
Take one off this one.
What kind of communication are you having with this project with Dickinson County?
I've been keeping them in the loop. We had a pre-con meeting at KDOT office 2 weeks ago. I invited them there. They did show up. Just kind of went over some details on that. So we did post it on our online site, the projected start date for this project. We do intend to take pictures throughout the project to kind of post them online as well, to kind of let people know how it's going. So.
And you'll remember Dickinson County's paying 60% of the
Yeah.
match on this, and we're paying 40%.
Correct.
And I believe they've already paid us
Yes, they've already paid us, yes.
for the,
Probably our job to keep them informed.
Yeah, I think so. About 2 pages. I have the fun. I may have to sign those as well.
okay.
We can do that a little later today.
That would be complete, I think.
That's all signed.
It's all signed, I think, right? Okay. Mhm.
The other thing was kind of what Randy, related to what Randy just asked. I just hired Victoria James. She's getting trained down there. Looking into the future with the announcement of Bev retiring last week. There's been talk in the future of what we're gonna do down there, and I'm just kind of wanting to know some clarification or something for all of us to think about in the future. Are we wanting when Bev retires, I'm wanting Vicky to learn both jobs. That's what I've been trying to do, is cross-training. Are we eliminating all that down to one position in the future down there, or are we gonna keep 2 people full-time down there? With that being said, the big person I had before, when she quit, she felt that one person can do both jobs. You know, kind of getting at the end of the month for payroll and stuff like that, it gets kind of hectic if they were to do both jobs. The only problem that I see is if 2 jobs get combined into one is if we get hit with a disaster and FEMA comes along, there's no way one person could do the legwork of both of those jobs plus the FEMA. And I think if we did go to just one person down there, I would definitely have to have a part-time person during those FEMA, and that usually takes 1.5 to 2 years to wrap everything up on FEMA. The only thing I worry about as a part-time is trying to train them on our computer system at that time, then getting in all this FEMA documentation, and so I'm here just kind of us to think about. You know, of course, Bev is December 20th, so Vicky has a lot of work to do to try to learn both jobs, but as of right now, just want us to think about what our future holds there as far as 1 or 2 positions, full-time.
Would you not say, Jesse, that evaluation of the system for what the jobs are needs to be done at this time somewhere in the future, real short, I mean, quickly? I mean,
Well, I know we've cleaned up, if you're asking about like job descriptions and stuff, we've really done a lot of.
no, I'm talking about their actual job, what they're doing. If it's
been-
all required that she takes care of all the bills down there and brings them up here, or I'm just looking at an overall look at it to say, how can we improve our system here? That's all I'm asking, I guess, and that's my.
And I think Tina might correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's been a lot of stuff like maybe on Bev's end that has started coming upstairs now that,
So,
I think there has been a lot of cleanup in
Okay.
the past, and I think that's kind of where I feel that one person could do both jobs. It's just I'm worried about that disaster period and then trying to train a part-time. So, I know they can both keep themselves busy every day if I had 2 full-time positions. It's just, I do know that it can be done with one person. So, that's kind of why I'm here, getting the talk started, see where you guys want to go, what direction. So,
Does Bev handle the tickler system?
they both, myself and them 2 both do. Our computers are all tied into where we can all add to that, yes.
I would tell you that when FEMA starts, let's say the floods of, I don't know when the last floods was, where they clogged up all the bridges and washed some roads away and did all that kind of stuff. There seems to be quite a system to where I don't remember who went out and took the pictures.
We all try to.
I was gonna say there's a bunch of pictures taken, and that has to be related to locations, how much damage at that location, and that's why FEMA requires quite a bit. I mean, it's a good deal, because I don't remember the last amount of money we got back, but healthy amount of money for doing it, so FEMA is a big thing when it happens, but that's usually, I don't know about the windstorm, I can't remember one of the last windstorms we had, but sometimes like that FEMA does all right trying to refund some money, especially when you get declared a disaster county, so. You don't want that to go away, you want somebody to handle it. I think early on, when one of the very first times we did it, while I've been sitting here, it became a pain, but it wasn't handled properly. And so I think as it went on, it got better situations, and that's when, if I remember right, Jesse, you changed my mind if you want to, but that's part of the reason why the second person come on board down there was for FEMA too, so, and I agree with you on what you said. But I'd like to look at the system, and make sure that we're not duplicating 2 or 3 things, that's all I care about.
Yeah, I'd like to look at it too and think about it a little bit.
Just some for thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's all the business I have for you.
where we stand at on, we've had it surveyed, we've had it bored, we've had it, we just haven't went nowhere from after we got the reports of the borings, correct, on Nighthawk and the other?
Correct. The testing's all done, the estimates are all there. I did provide all three of you with the reports of all that and the estimates, so, it's, Cook Flat Struggle just asked me what's the detail on that, how are we moving forward, so I said it's kinda up in the air right now, so.
I got asked quite a bit this weekend by people that visit the show down there that I was attending, and they just want to know where we're at with it. Quite a bit of money, and but that was a complete deal. I mean, that was culverts and everything. I'm just wondering.
I would like to, just as far as the estimate that you all three seen, it showed like 7.1 million for that whole 15-mile stretch. 2 miles of it was the old trail going outside west of Peabody, and then the 13 miles was from Highway 50 and Highway 56. One cost to take out of that is the culverts that I have already purchased and held to the side. They're already bought and paid for. Matching up with what Cook Flat thought needed to be replaced to what we thought needed to be replaced, it's quite amazing. It's pretty much right on, and I have all those culverts and boxes bought and paid for and in stock. So that's one cost that would be eliminated from that estimate. As well as if you look at the asphalt estimate, they did a very high estimate on that, in my opinion, especially if this would go out to bids. So I think you'd see a lot less cost as well to that number.
Did they figure in a contractor to put those boxes into with
That's
the?
what I told them is
Okay.
that they would put them in. That would
So
all.
not only the culvert cost, but
Yeah.
labor cost was in on that too.
Yes.
So both of those would be removed if.
Well, the labor, if we did it,
Mhm.
then yes, the labor out of that would, trying to work with their schedule. I would assume that could be possible, that we could go in there and do it ourselves, so.
Well,
I mean, the labor there, they're already gonna be there, rebuilding the road, so I didn't really talk to them about the labor, but I did tell them that at that time, go ahead and just figure in, you would be putting the culverts and boxes in on the estimate, so, yes, that is in there on that
Okay.
estimate.
well, somewhere we need to make some decisions on whether to cut that kind of stuff out and get it down maybe a little bit more, see where exactly we come in at, or just exactly what we're gonna do, because I've got, like I said, I'm getting some people to ask questions and when we're gonna start, and I said, we haven't got that far yet, so.
First of all, we need to decide how we're gonna pay for it.
And I know I had found, I don't know if I gave that to any of you for or not, some bonding companies that counties are going to get bonds out there. I'd given a phone number, I don't know if I gave that to you, Tina, or not, but I know I have them saved on my email. If I didn't provide that, there is some companies out there that will give bonds, help with counties and cities for bonds, so.
Was bonds by election, or?
That I don't know. This Cook Flat provided me some names and phone numbers to go ahead and try to look through, or try to call them and find out what they'll do for cities and counties. So it was another option for us to try to find some help as well.
Would it be worthwhile to bring some of those people in just to give us a spiel, or just find out what they would do and have a comparison sheet put together? I mean, that's what I'm.
Well, we need to start there,
Yeah.
because before we start really talking in details, we're gonna have to find it, say, hey, yeah, we can do this, or we can't do it.
And I'll look back through my emails and find that stuff and provide that for all of you.
Whether you cut the project in half and do half of it now and half of it later or something.
It's always an idea, you just never know about oil prices, so.
Yeah. And you won't know till you get the bids.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Jesse, I have one other question. On 330th, where the road was cracking, I know Darren was going to do some sampling and some testing to make
And
a determination. Have you heard anything? I mean, this was
I hadn't heard
weeks
nothing,
ago.
so I called Darren this morning, and said, what's going on? He got wrapped up in the project in Hillsborough, and he he's hoping Thursday, he goes in course on Thursday, he's hoping. So he told me to let you three know that. So yeah, I've been waiting on that too, so I was kind of forgot about it, then oh heck, so I called him this morning.
Oh, good, okay. I was kind of wondering about
So
that. I was gonna ask
hopefully-
a couple times and then I forgot about it.
Yeah, Thursday or Friday, I'm hoping he course, so, and finds out what the story is there, so.
All right.
Can you give us a little update on, the road work that's going on over west?
We, for like, blading and all that
Yeah.
stuff, just Wednesday last week, we, for a whole week, we had, 2 additional, blade operators out there helping and assisting. There's quite a few problems. I'm not saying we fixed them 100%, but we've got some things a lot safer. They left Wednesday to go back to their own sections, those 2. Then we, of course, we got hit with some rains later week. So, nice thing is with, Gene Lanning, that you guys just signed the paperwork on, he's gonna be just floating around helping in sections or areas. That's kind of the purpose of the seasonal grader.
Because we will be having a new operator out in that area, right?
No, he rescinded his, resignation, and I needed to keep a warm body out there for right now.
Okay.
That was more important to me than trying to find someone right now, so, right now, I think things are going good. We got a lot of work to do, and we gotta keep grinding.
I think Gene has close to 15 years with the county as a grader.
Yeah, I knew he had a lot of experience.
He's a very good operator.
So that's kind of the update. I've been hitting it hard too, looking out there. There's things I found that I was not happy with, and we've been addressing them as soon as we see them, and even when we don't see them, I'm one of the blade operators to take some responsibility, so.
Good.
So we're grinding, we're trying very hard.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
That's all I have. Ted,
Nope.
Randy done?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's it.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
I seen Bud was out there.
I'm in here.
You're in here. Come on in, Bud.
I'm in here.
The man with the good news.
Yeah. Better news.
Good. I was like that.
Okay, the train broke down again. Same exact problem. I called Cone Cranes and told them, I said, now, if you're gonna charge us to come out here just to look at this to see what's wrong, I said, there ought to be some kind of warranty on this thing. Well, they showed up Friday. They looked at it, told me what had happened, pulled the bolts back out of the thing, so there's something other than that. So I told them, fine, forget it. I don't think we need to stick any more money into that crane. So my question is, do you wanna lease a machine until I can get the bids in here and we can get decided on what we wanna do with the permanent machine for the new?
What did you say on an estimate would be on that lease of the machine? You told us
On-
once or so.
I've got the bids here, if you wanna look at it.
For one company or two?
Caterpillar and John Deere's about the only ones that have
Have a copy for
anything.
each of us?
Yeah, and one for Tina, if you wanna get to her. I was mistaken when I told you it was 1,200 for the last time. It was 2,200 a month, but when we leased it the last time, and it was a Caterpillar machine that we leased. So it's gone up $150 about, something like that, in that length of time to lease one.
And it worked well for you though?
Oh, yeah, it worked good because we didn't have to shut the floor down to park on top of it, you know. Right now, we're using one of Road and Bridges rotary hose. I don't know how long we'll be able to keep using that until they need it back. I just, you know, whatever you guys wanna do,
If we were to lease this, when would you be able to get it in?
tomorrow.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, depending on which way you go, but if you go with normal, you know, that's,
Yeah.
and they don't have anything that we could use to help if we buy a new one from them, you know, what I'm saying, where the lease would go towards that price. I tried to get that, but that doesn't work. You rent it or you buy it.
Really?
And if you rent the one you're using and you turn around and want to buy that one, which this is going to be a mini excavator, and that's not what we're looking at to be the packing machine that we want in the new thing. So, and for some reason, a rubber tired hoe is more expensive to lease than a mini excavator. I don't know why, but yeah, I would say so.
Is that what you used before?
Yes, that's what we used before, and it worked out well. We were getting 18-ton, 20-ton packing with it, depending on what was being packed, you know. We've got a few that were above that.
Gotta have something, don't you?
Well, we have to have something, and I guess I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to fix the crane? Myself, I don't even know what could be wrong with it, and if it runs into $18,000–$20,000 like the last repair job did on the motor and stuff, you know, that's.
I personally think that dead horse, done deal.
I mean, it wasn't anything that was our fault, you know.
Would you tell us if it was?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
I would.
I just gotta tell you, I don't wanna spend $3,000 a month to lease something. I mean, that's a payment for,
Sure.
payment a month is what it is towards the purchase.
I know. I guess if Road and Bridge can do without their,
Well, what kind of time are we looking at to get bids right back in here by next week to
Yeah.
purchase one?
Monday, I told them I wanted them here by the 1st. So,
Then we'd be looking at a lease purchase.
Well,
Well-
you could, or you can,
Well, I mean,
I asked them.
that's the only thing that makes sense to me in the rate environment that we've got,
Okay.
and what we've seen.
I asked them if there was a possibility that there might be a machine out there set up like what we were wanting, and they said, right now on the lots, there's nothing, but there might be something that's being built that they could snatch a hold of and get it to us quicker than the 90-day outlook, you know. But they don't know. They'd have to just wait and see whoever gets the bid, you know, on it.
right.
So
That's-
you'd be looking at 90 days to.
Most of them are saying, when I was talking to the cat guy, he said, are you wanting it in 2018? I said, preferably. That way we could get it and use it, you know. Otherwise, I think most of them are looking at having it here after the first of the year.
Because I don't wanna tie up Road and Bridges equipment, they need it.
That's a long time.
You know, I know, I don't wanna spend that much money, you know, on leasing machine too, but we have to have something. I just don't know.
The other thing we've seen besides Cat and John Deere with JCB, and where'd you tell me their closest deal
Kansas
is
City,
now?
Olathe, Kansas City.
Olathe, Kansas City.
Yeah, 'cause sellers quit. They sold out and the new buyer is not gonna handle construction equipment, so. And I do have a bid from them for the new machine. I didn't get a hold of them for this because,
Yeah, well, I just,
yeah.
We'd like to be able to find a used machine around somewhere that we could rent for less than that.
Yeah,
But again, like, you know.
I asked-
I know, you know,
yeah,
there are
John-
places that sell used stuff that are not very far away, but
but I tell you, if you take bids and we choose one, whatever, say, I think it, say, we're gonna purchase this from you, but we're gonna pay you this lease. All the money that we put on this goes towards the purchase of that equipment.
you just got through.
That's what I'm saying, I know that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have so
You
much
get
problem
down here
with
and
it.
tell them right here to their face, the dealers, when they're salesmen sitting here, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna purchase your equipment, we want this cost to go in on that. That's my point of view, that's the way I do it.
Either that or discount the new piece by 2 or 3 months worth of.
Well, of that, yeah, or some way we get paid for it, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I can check into that.
And we're gonna have to have one shortly, within 6-9 months anyway, apparently, so.
somewhere's in there.
So how long did Jesse say that right now you're safe using his?
They didn't say
equipment?
anything, just when it broke down Thursday, I made a phone call and they said, yeah, it's setting up the shop, go get it, you guys can use it until whatever happens. And I can check with him and see how long, I mean, they do still have the other one they can use, but I just
You
don't
need
want.
both.
Yeah, I don't want to tie them, yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Right, right.
We had, you know,
Mhm,
had both of them and the excavator running there that time I was at River Bridge, so,
mhm.
doing over.
Well, I think you get them in here and tell them next 10 o'clock, let's just say, I don't know what the schedule is, but
Yeah.
10 o'clock next Monday morning, we're gonna open bids for one of the machines. If you wanna be here, have them sitting both sitting here. And the lowest one, if he turns it down, I might look at the other one and say, what can you do? I don't know. I'm just saying that
Okay.
we wouldn't, that's my opinion, not just my opinion, guys.
Well, I
Always
can
get the
spend
best
that much
price,
a
too.
month too and not
Well,
get some
yeah,
kind
I-
of credit for it.
That's what I was trying to do, is to get them to tell me if that would work.
But we're talking now.
Right.
Right here, we're dealing.
Yes, yes.
And it's
yes.
just like a car deal.
I'll just tell them that you guys wanna have them here next Monday.
I don't know if that'll
Fine
work.
with
or not.
me. Yeah.
Do it.
There I guess you got your orders. I've heard two.
I got 'em, so.
See if you get her set up for whatever time you can get on next Monday.
Well, I got Call Valley coming in
Or Monday too.
about the plans. They're still waiting on the permit from the city. He doesn't understand why, but we're still waiting on the building. He tried to call, but the guy wasn't in. He won't be back till tomorrow, and he's gonna call him tomorrow and ask him what's going on. So,
Mhm, mhm.
so anyway, Chad will be here next Monday.
Okay.
Whatever time I got up there, but
And sort of keep your mind open too, but
Sure.
even if Jesse has to use it,
Yeah.
see what other availability there is. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're talking to them, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, just to see what all, we want you to have a piece of equipment, we
well,
want you to work.
right now, we got that house that burnt here in
It's coming
Marion,
in, yeah.
coming in today and tomorrow and probably Wednesday.
But that permit was also, they
Yes.
waited for 7 to 10 days for that permit too, so.
Yes, yes,
They're upset.
Yes.
It's the city of Marion.
yes. They still don't have it, but
Right.
anyway. Okay, next thing,
Next thing, okay.
the overhead door opener on the north door is all but out. It needs to be replaced. Now, the nice thing about this is, if we do, the one we just purchased in February can be moved over to the new part. It'll work on them roll-up doors, no matter what roll-up door, the new opener will that we have. If we purchase one for the north door, it can be moved over to the new part too. So it's not money we're just throwing away. We will be able to, when the plans are drawn up, it can be specified in it that there's 2 openers that will be moved over to the overhead doors. So whoever bids on the doors or whatever knows that those openers are gonna be moved from there to there.
How do we know what type of door we're gonna have on the other? And then how do we know
The
that?
roll-up door, like we have, because you don't want an overhead door in there with that high ceiling.
Well, we've seen them in other places though.
Right.
There's 2 different kinds of doors we're talking about.
Yeah.
One that goes up in a cage and one that lays out.
Like your regular garage
Yeah.
door, the panel door or the roll-up.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
I wonder.
I'm just was telling you, if we do it, that would be a possibility, if they are the roll-up doors.
Because what was the last bid on that opener? Was
It
it
was,
2, you say?
this is what.
This is what the new bid is?
Yeah, that's what the new bid is.
I thought it was more than that.
No, it come in.
Go ahead. I'll do it. Thank you.
The last one we got was from Cheney Door, and it was $1,500 and some dollars for it back in February. So he said he knew they went up a little bit in price, but didn't know how much, and then he got back with me.
Mhm.
Need the new door and 1,600, like a life savings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Did y'all want to take any action on that?
On the Cheney, the low bid,
Yeah.
okay. we all just go ahead and get it? Is that pretty much what you're thinking?
I'd make that motion, go Cheney door and get it replaced at 1662.
Okay.
Got a motion by Randy to accept Cheney door for 1662. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kent. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then one last thing. I know that the city owns the roads around Washington Street and the one that's right on the east side of the transfer station. I've taken a blade down there the last few rains and got the road healed up now, but it does need some rock. Is it okay if we just go ahead and rock it and be done with it? Because I don't know. Last time I asked for rock.
It's due to us, mostly, I mean,
Yeah,
the
it is.
transfer station.
Yeah, it's for the transfer
Yeah.
station mainly. We're just going to our gates, you know, on Washington and from Santa Fe around.
If the damage is due to us, I'd just assume replace the city
Yeah.
let us. I
Do you want him to run that by the city and just make sure that
Yes,
they're good
yes.
with him doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm fine
I'll
with
do
that.
that then.
Yeah.
I'll do that then, so. Okay,
Is that all you have, Bud?
that's all I have, and I'll get with these other people on this
Okay.
rental thing and
Yes.
see what we can do.
No, we're serious, we're not.
Oh, yeah, I will,
Okay.
I will. And are you wanting them guys here?
If they're interested in their bids, then
Okay.
let them know what we're interested in doing, I mean.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Yeah.
And so-
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Rental on the 3,000 a month?
I'm sorry?
You're not doing the 3,000 a month?
Not yet, not yet.
No, no.
Okay, we
Hopefully they
have,
can-
I'm sorry, is Mr. Dale Leach here? Come on in.
Morning.
Good morning, good morning. That's not Dale Leach. Oh, okay, here it comes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Dale?
Yes.
You may have a seat.
Oh.
What you got for us?
Well, I came to see if I was gonna get a tax abatement, because I'm putting in a new home, we're not in it yet. And Brian explained to me that there was just a 60-day from the time that you get your building permit to file for this. And I didn't know, if Emma told me, because I didn't know that I had to do that, that's why I just came in when I was in town.
Mm-hmm.
What's your property start from, the bare ground to nothing, or you tore down a house and you put a new house up, or?
Yes, we had the trailer, the old trailer that was there, moved out, and a new Skyline arrived like 3 weeks ago.
You're out the East Shore.
Yes, East Shore, clear to the north end.
Your hometown is where? You live there year-round?
Yes,
Okay,
I retired
Okay.
in July.
okay,
I came from McPherson,
okay.
but I've been over here for 16 years.
Okay, yeah.
And these friends of mine were kind of telling me, well, you know, for a new home, you know, you need to go get the tax benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
You
in
didn't know
error.
about it?
If I was told from Emma, I did not know.
This,
Yeah.
Dale, you had to go through the planning and zoning commission too, didn't you, to get something, didn't you, or did you not? Did you
Yeah.
bring it up for space width or something?
Right.
Oh, they closed the road, that's the one we closed that
Yes,
little road on.
yes.
Oh,
Between those
that's
two
right,
places,
yes,
yes.
that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that was me. And my neighbor, John. Can't think of his last name. He's
Yeah.
hardly ever here.
Right, the house to the east.
So since there was 60 days, how many days is it now?
I believe Brian figured
Almost
80,
90 days. He
It's
came
almost
to us.
90? Oh, so it's not that
result
far out.
82.
Yeah, last Monday when he came to us,
Okay.
it was 82 days.
Okay.
So that put it past the 60-day in the application for the appraiser's office to approve the application.
Okay, so basically you're asking for an exemption to,
Yes, for you guys to grant it, because we're, according to the plan, we don't have the authority to.
right,
Okay.
right.
And it says it in here. I read it
Yeah.
when I filled it out.
Let me explain here, now, let's say your place is worth 15,000, I'm just using figures, nothing,
Right.
nothing, not degrading. Your new house is worth 30,000. What's the tax abatement would be above on the 15,000 that it would raise it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know what his value of his house is, what it was.
I have it here if you would like.
Huh?
It's, 34,450.
What it is now?
Yes, basically, he would be replacing a 14 by 67, 1977 manufactured home, with a value of 6,210 with a brand new, I'm not sure what the size.
It's a
of it is.
Skyline, it's 2,000 square foot, it's 32 by 66.
But it does stand a chance to double the value of what we see here.
More than double the value.
Oh, okay, so could go to 60.
Is that going on a basement?
60.
Stem wall, not a basement.
Yeah, he's doubling his value and stuff. It's 5 years, what the plan is right now.
I see no reason not to go ahead and grant that.
You need to take official action if you
Yeah.
want to allow him to participate in the program.
Yes. So, you wanna go ahead and make a motion?
I'd make that motion that we allow Bill Leach to participate in the countywide revitalization program. And we have tried, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, got a motion by Randy, have a second. Second by Kent, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
So be it. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Have a good day.
You too.
We're just a little bit ahead of ourselves. Is Jamie out there? You see her out there?
Nope.
Not yet? Moving right along.
I do have a salary sheet that was handed to me. Are we gonna do that?
We can do that. Okay, and this is for interim EMS director, Robert Church, to go from 1581 to 1781, effective 9/21/2018. Boy, fat pen.
See, it works just fine.
Like the really slimline pens work better for me, these fat ones don't. Yeah, we can take a 5-minute recess, go ahead, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Okay, well, 5 minutes is up, and we'll go ahead and get back into session. Jamie's here, so, go ahead, it's on you.
Well, I would like to ask if we could go into executive session to discuss personnel,
For how long?
15 minutes.
15?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and grant the 15 minutes for personnel.
For performance or the specific topic?
Billing?
That's
So
our
that would be,
topic.
well,
But-
so it would be job performance?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna move that we recess into executive session for a period of 15 minutes, and we'll reconvene back in this commission room at 10:40 to discuss matters of personnel, of non-elected personnel, for performance pursuant KSA 754319B with Jamie and the commission. And, we're good?
Green
All right,
light.
I'm sorry, Josh, you're
No,
ready,
that's
ready to go. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Sir, if you'll pass one of each of those down.
Sure, thank you.
I just wanted to address some of the discussion from last week about the CPR. I want to start this off, that the way the AHA is set up is the AHA is actually a credentialing organization. They don't actually pay instructors. Instructors actually have to pay to take the classes, and we pay for the cards and things of that nature. The AHA does not pay anyone other than their own administration. So there aren't any private instructors or anything like that. Each instructor has to fall under a training center. And then from the training centers, that goes down to the training site. So our regional training center is Salina Regional. Up until last week, Marion County EMS was a training site under them. Okay? So the way that it was previously done was I would teach for the county. The county would collect the money. I would get paid my hourly wage. After a while, it got to the point where there were outside organizations asking for classes. Ed was unable to keep up with the demand, and he was looking really hard at budget as far as being able to manage overtime. So it was suggested that I start teaching on my own. If you look at the second page, you'll actually see my articles of incorporation. I do have my own business that has absolutely nothing to do with the county. When I do teach on my own, I don't claim it's sponsored by Marion County. The only time I even mention Marion County is I always introduce myself, what I do for a living, things like that. I do mention that I work for Marion County EMS, but I always throw out that disclaimer, this class is not sponsored. This class is through a Heart to Start training group. When it also got brought up about the whole education thing, especially with police officers and everything. So when I became a CPR instructor, I was actually working for the city of Marion. I paid everything to become an instructor on my own because I wanted to further my EMS, I hate to say credentials, but the things I was able to do for EMS. I was a volunteer out of Florence at the time. So the county has no monetary investment in my CPR instructor education. Otherwise, I would have come to Ed and been like, hey, can I do this, that sort of thing. All of that was paid out of my own pocket. None of it was on the county's time or anything like that. So I've been teaching CPR for almost 2 years now, both for the county, for the military, and on my own for the last couple months since April. And like I said, when I teach for the county, I clock in, and I believe there's only been once that I've brought a check to Jamie. All the other times it's been billed to whatever organization or whomever we're teaching, if we bill them at all. A perfect example of this is the high school students. They need it as a requirement for graduation. We never bill them. So my prices are set by me. The prices that the county charges have always been set by the EMS director. I know it got brought up that I charge $35 for that class coming up at the beginning of November. That's due to an agreement between me and the city. My normal prices are actually higher than the county's just because I have more overhead than the county does. So I wanted to make that clear. That 35 is not my normal price.
Okay.
That's just due to an agreement I have with the city of Marion. So I also wanted to bring up, as far as I can give you numbers of people I've taught for the county. I cannot release the rosters without signed permission from each person on that roster. And if there was another instructor, I would have to have their release as well. I can give you numbers, and if you like, I can gather that data and bring it back to you of times I've taught for the county, but I can't release those rosters due to the privacy policy of the American Heart Association. So I did want to bring up, because education was brought up, the county has paid for some of my EMS training education. I came into the county with my EMT. The county did not pay any of it. I got my advanced EMT. The county did not pay any of it. The county has paid for my training officer 1 and 2 and my instructor coordinator. And training officer 1 and 2 is used to teach continuing education. And the total cost of the county was $25 because we used the Education Incentive Grant, which is a program put on by the state of Kansas to encourage people to further their education. And then for my instructor coordinator, the county paid $350, which was kind of the gap between what the college charged and what the grant funded. And I'm currently using those only to teach for the county. I don't teach for any outside EMS education or any outside EMS agency. My LLC is for CPR, and I do some other training that I learned to do through the military for police officers and things of that nature. But as far as teaching continuing education for EMS, I only do that for Marion County. I don't do it for any outside agency, any on my own, anything like that. So I just wanted to clarify some of that that was brought up at the last commissioner meeting. and also give y'all the opportunity to ask any questions y'all may have.
So, Josh, I do have a couple, and the reason I brought a lot of this up was not accusing anybody of anything, but just as I go through the budget and different things like that, I noticed a lot of reports that I had, the numbers just didn't match.
Yes,
And for months, I have been asking for more information, more numbers, more stuff, and I haven't been able to get it. And I haven't been asking you or Ed, I've been going through the clerk's office, asking Tina and stuff. And I've been talking to different people about this and gathering up all the monthly revenue reports that we get from Ed and different things like that. And I just could not find where any of this was going or what was going on. And I did talk to Rita at Salina
yes, ma'am.
Regional Training, and she did explain to me very thoroughly, similar to what you just did, about being an independent contractor. And that's fine. I have no problem with that at all. And all I wanted was information. All I wanted was transparency. Okay, and it was just such a big secret, and it just drove me crazy. So, and that's why I kept asking more and more and more questions. And so I did notice today, just today, I have right here in the mail a whole lot more information, which I was not able to get before, and I haven't had a chance to even look at it yet. So that's why I was questioning things, because I couldn't get answers. And so I didn't blame anybody for anything. I'm just saying the numbers just did not add up. And so when I come across numbers that don't add up, then I have to pursue and find out why.
Completely understand.
And so that's where I was coming from. Okay. I do just have one other question for you, and that is when you're doing these trainings and things like that, how do you dress? Do you wear the Marion uniform that you have, your EMS
No, ma'am.
uniform?
Well, when I'm teaching for the county, yes, I wear my Marion County collared polo.
Okay.
You know, and I usually wear what we call tech pants, which are the EMS pants. I'm
Yes,
sure you've seen us
yes,
in.
yes.
When I teach for myself, I'm dressed as you see here,
Mhm.
khakis and a collared shirt,
Mhm.
because I believe personally, if you're going to teach, you should look professional.
Certainly.
And that's how I teach.
Mhm. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming in to explain it, because like I say, there's nothing worse than lack of communication and a lack of transparency. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying that's how things get, blown out of proportion in some cases, just because you don't know and you can't get the information.
Yes,
And so, I did have a lot of questions and stuff, and I have a lot of information and stuff to go through and stuff, but I appreciate you coming through and explaining it. A lot of things that you have said, I actually learned from Rita anyway, the way that works with the American Heart. I know it seems to be common practice anymore.
Well, and I spoke with Rita, I'm wanting to say Wednesday of last week, and she described the conversation with you,
Mhm.
but she stated she told you she taught for the hospital, but also taught after hours
Yes,
on
she
her own
did.
as well.
That's what
So,
she said.
so she does both,
Yes.
similar to what we were doing, or
Yes.
I was doing. Ed's
Mhm.
never taught,
Mhm.
as far as I'm aware, Ed never taught outside the county.
Mhm.
When he taught, it was for the county.
Yeah, that's what she
Um,
said.
And so she also stated that Marion County EMS is no longer a training site because a lot of this got brought up. She dissolved the Marion County EMS training site. So Marion County EMS can no longer offer CPR at this time. I wanted to make you all aware of that as well. My business is still aligned through Salina. We have had an offer to align with another training center. However, I do not feel comfortable teaching CPR for the county until some sort of policy is in place that protects, I hate to sound selfish, but protects me. Some sort of policy about billing or, how that'll be handled.
And that's necessary.
Yes,
That is
ma'am.
necessary.
So I don't feel comfortable teaching for the
Mhm.
county, teaching CPR for the county until that policy is in place. Once that policy is in place, I have no problem aligning through this other training center and teaching for the county again.
Mhm. And
So-
that's excellent. And, it should have been brought up from the very beginning, a lot of this stuff. Not knowing all this is going on, I'm going right here.
Josh, why was the county dropped from that side?
Because of what was brought up at the last commission.
And how did that get up to the American Heart? How they
She was aware that the videos were on YouTube.
Okay, okay. So, that's interesting that happened. happen like that, so, but nonetheless, a policy is necessary to prevent things like this.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we should have been known as commissioners anyway that was going on. How did we know? We didn't know any of it. Did you know about it, Randy?
About what?
Being independent contractors and how that worked with the American Heart and different
I
things
mean,
like
it could be, but it was, and I think the financials will show you that our local directors have always been for the county. And anything they collect better come through there, or we had a problem. So that's. I
And
think
that's
that
the way
was
it has been.
Yeah, it's always been that way, so
And I can speak that Steve Smith and Brandy McCarty both taught CPR, and I know this from teaching CPR classes throughout the county, both for the county and myself. People have brought up, oh, you know, I wasn't taught this last time, or this has changed from last time, and I always ask, you know, well, who taught the class? I can tell you that both the previous directors taught, but if I'm not mistaken, it was for the county. And I mean, like I said, I started teaching before I was a volunteer for the county, but I was not a full-time employee when I started teaching CPR. And then the amount of classes that were needed throughout the county became so great that Ed could not keep up with them and be a director at the same time. So the suggestion was made that I start my own company. And I started my own company not only to protect myself, but to protect the county. So there's no way any liability could ever come back on the county if anything were to ever happen.
That's good. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, whether somebody goes out and gets qualified like Josh has on his own, I would just, I guess, if we have, what if we had 5 EMTs or paramedics that was trained, I would like to know that if they had their own business, so that, not that I'm wanting to shut their business down or anything, but just know it, that these people are trained in that and they can go do things and stuff like that.
And that's the whole secret right there. It's not secret, but that's the whole thing, is we need to be aware of what's going in within the department. And I had no idea about any of this 3 months ago. Nothing. It was all a mystery to me. And so in seeking and trying to find things out is how I've learned what I've learned so far. And I'm glad you came and clarified that. And I'd like the county to get a good policy going forward, that we can continue to do it the correct way, and so that it benefits the county and anybody else. You kind of know what we're talking about already, Mr. Jams? I see you're already writing. And so Josh did present us with his, you want mine right here, he presented us with a copy of his.
Articles of incorporation.
Yeah, he is an independent contractor.
Did it as an LLC.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to, and like I just stated, I wanted to protect not only myself, but also the county.
Sure.
I wanted to make sure there was no representation of this class is put on by Marion County. I'm not sure if you were here when I stated, I don't wear my Marion County, this is how I dress when I teach for my company. I don't wear my Marion County shirt or anything like that, but when I did teach for the county, I would wear my EMS uniform.
So the representations throughout on this are always going to be as your LLC when you're doing it independently?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we can have a policy made up before you all belong to. Okay,
To allow the independent nature of that, sure.
okay.
Josh, fill me in on, besides American Heart out of Salina, is how many other CPR training companies around?
So you have multiple different organizations that certify. Again, that's all they do, or certify or credential instructors. So you have the American Heart Association, which is the most widely accepted, especially for healthcare providers. There are actually facilities that will not accept American Red Cross or the American Safety Health Institute, which is ASHI is what it's called. There's multiple different organizations out there. AHA is on the leading edge of current research and current methodologies, and it's the most widely accepted, which is why that's who we've always used. Currently, there are no AHA training centers accepting new training sites in the state of Kansas. Like I said, we had an offer to align with one, due to past relationship with some of their faculty. But I don't feel comfortable aligning with them until there's a policy in place. And at that point, again, I don't mind teaching for the county one bit, as long as myself and the county are protected from any of this ever coming up again. So you've got, like I said, you've got the Red Cross, ASHE, those are the three big ones.
You sort of, because years ago, I'm old, so anyway, years ago, everything was through Red Cross. And then now it's changed, and then you said that they didn't accept that.
There are certain places that don't accept the Red Cross.
Yeah. I just find it interesting that was the only place that I knew of was Red Cross back when I was in.
Yes, sir. And the American Heart Association also offers updates every 5 years because, of course, research changes.
Yep.
Anything medical is going to change. So, like I said, they're on the cutting edge of best practices, which is why that's who we've gone through in the past.
So what you're saying is right now we cannot offer a CPR class to the county.
No, sir.
So how long would it take to get a policy in place, do you think?
I'm probably gonna even touch base with Josh on this, just so we're all consistent in terms of what we're doing, but I drafted one since our last meeting, but hadn't finished that portion out, and then saw that he was gonna be on today, so I was kind of trying to get here by the time he got here. And I think he's answered the other couple of questions I had. So, have a meeting on October 1st, is that the plan?
Mm-hmm.
I can go ahead and distribute it to the commission and to Tina in advance probably of the next meeting,
Okay,
and then get your feedback on that and go from there.
okay. So we have a policy ready to go by next Monday, say, next Monday?
But that still don't answer Kent's question.
What?
We're not set up as a county, that's another issue.
That's another different issue, what Kent asked.
I mean, how are we gonna align with someone so we can offer? We've
Because
gotta
they
do
won't
it.
accept you.
We've gotta offer it.
Once the policy's in place, there's been an offer made to me to align
Mhm.
under somebody, and allow me.
As a representative of the county.
Correct. They made that offer at the end of last week. Again, I just don't feel comfortable
Right, I
aligning
understand that.
until there's
I
a policy in
understand
place.
that. Okay.
Okay.
That all seems fair to me, sounds like the right way to go do things.
I guess, Josh, I just have to say, and to commission and Brad, is, in the basis of your question, Kent, is we align through Josh. Whatever happens, Josh, and I don't know the future, Josh goes down the road. I don't want to be back in the same road. So, not that, I appreciate what you offered, Josh, but I'm saying that as a county, I want to be aligned. I don't know if that's the correct way to say it or not.
So the best way to do that would be to actually get more instructors qualified that work for the service. And that's a possibility. I'm actually faculty through the military, so I have 6 instructors under me at my reserve unit. The offer's been made for me to transfer my paperwork to Salina as well, so I could offer an instructor's class hopefully sometime in the next couple months. Karen and Larry Larson are both faculty. They've offered a CPR instructor's class, I believe, I can't remember when, but in the near past, they've offered one. As far as I'm aware, nobody took it from the service. They may have, none that I'm aware of. So the option's there to create more instructors for Marion County.
I think there's some
Following
volunteers too that are
something
interested
policy-wise?
in being
Yeah,
instructors.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm picking up.
Because I think that's what the commission would want, I think,
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
to be aligned.
I just want to protect us and get it right, you know, because it's too bad it came, well, actually, you know, it's a good thing that it came so we can get this all straightened out for everybody's sake and just get it taken care of.
But at the bottom line, I have no interest in if Peter Pan Ice Cream Company comes up and he wants 10 classes, and you want to do that on your own. That's not my business.
That's right, that's none of our business.
I appreciate that. Because there's high schools, I mean, that started, high schools.
Yeah, it's required for the high schools.
Yeah.
And I think this really steps up and speaks a lot for keeping our policies current and staying on top of policies. Because it's a good thing that we're doing the policy in this thing rather than some catastrophe happening and then having to say another policy because we've done something wrong. So I'm glad it's actually coming up in this session.
Does the County of Marion owe American Heart Association out of Salina a letter of intent, or?
I'm still trying to process that element of it in terms of what we need to do. And, I mean, whether this needs to run through a job description somewhere, for example, with the EMS director, that there is, as part of the job duties, requirement to maintain faculty, or at least someone who's sitting where Josh is in terms of the ability to do this for the county. Does that make sense? Am I
Yes, sir.
tracking correctly? Because I'm trying to figure out that this policy is going to have some additions to it, from what I've done, because I wasn't aware that the county wasn't in a position to offer at this point.
So Salina pulled their alignment with Marion County EMS last week.
Okay. Okay.
My business is still aligned with them, but they pulled the Marion County EMS training site. They dissolved it last week.
So we really do need, it's incumbent upon us to set up something independent at this point.
Well, there's another training site that's offered for me to align with them and teach here at Marion County. I just, like I told them, I don't feel comfortable doing it until there's a policy in place
Okay.
that prevents this from happening again.
What is the process in becoming aligned with somebody else?
So
Just so
if you're already an instructor, you just contact that training center, whoever the point, or the training site, whoever the point of contact is, and if they're willing to take on additional instructors, at that point you go online to the instructor network, you fill out a little form, they get it, they approve it, and you're aligned. If you're not already an instructor, you have to do what's called an instructor essentials course, which on the military side it's delivered in a classroom, on the civilian side it's delivered online. So you do this online training, and then you go to a classroom portion, and then your first class has to be monitored. So you have to have a faculty member sit in on your first class to ensure you're teaching it correctly.
So recognizing that we're going to get a policy in place here for you, would you feel comfortable going ahead and starting the process of getting aligned, knowing that within a short period of time a policy will be in place?
Once it's in place, I have no problem
Okay,
aligning.
so the answer is no.
So, have we had anyone that's requested training from the county? I mean, are we already getting a list, or?
I know that one person called the EMS office, and Jamie referred them to me as the only person in Marion County that's offering CPR at this time. Other than that, I only know of the one because they called me, and I just referred them to that class I'm teaching for the city. But I know, so the recertification cycle is every 2 years, and bus drivers have to have CPR first aid. All medical personnel, it's not required of CNAs, but most of them take it anyways. But CMAs, LPNs, RNs, doctors, they all have to do it every 2 years. And it's basically on a rotating cycle. We'll do half of HCH 1 year, and we'll do the next half the next year. So it's on a rotating cycle. Or, St. Luke, or we have EMS personnel that have to recertify every 2 years, things of that nature.
So we need to get aligned as quick as we can.
I'd also like to make a point. I have never stolen business from the county. If they call the county and Ed couldn't teach the class, or there wasn't a class coming up, they may be referred to me, but I don't poach customers from the county. I would rather the county, yes, I have a business, but the county also needs the funds to replace CPR mannequins. The regulation's changing at the beginning of next year, and we have 6 bags of CPR mannequins that, as of January 1st, can't be used for AHA classes anymore. So we've been having to buy new ones. And the county needs that income to pay for those mannequins. So I want to make that clear. I've never poached customers from the county. I do my own advertising, my own sales calls, things of that nature. And like I said, I actually charge a little bit more than the county does.
Judge, you have a contact number that you can give me? Thank you. Yes, sir.
That's all I have. Do you have any questions for Josh? Do you have anything else, Josh? That's all? Anybody else have any other questions for Josh? Okay. Thank you, Josh. Okay, so next on your list is Bob Church. Is he out there? Here he is. Come on in. Bob, have a seat.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Right.
Robert, not Bob.
It says
Either way.
Either way, you
Oh.
go either.
either-
Well, it's a weird deal.
Okay.
I was always,
Okay.
I was always Robert at Via Christi, and then when I came here, they started calling me Bob, and I just didn't correct them, so it is what it is. But I'm Bob to my friends, so I
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
Okay, what do you have some questions and things? Yes.
Yeah, I've spoken with you a little bit about this and just basically wanted something I'd like to look at doing, because I think it's something that can solve a little bit of a problem with when we have shortfalls, and also mitigate overtime, is looking at right now. I believe we have 4 what we call part-time positions. They're more, in my experience, are more what we call PRN, per request need. In other words, we're not guaranteeing anybody 20 hours or anything like that. It's just if we need to fill a shift, we call around. Sometimes they may not get any hours, but if we need them. But right now, I believe we have 4 of those positions, and we only have 3 of them filled because we just moved Noah over to full-time a month or so ago. And so what I'd like to do is see if maybe we can expand that a little bit. I think it can be a minimal budget hit, because at least for the full-time stations, and that's where we use them for the full-time stations. If one of those people is working, we were already going to pay somebody to work that slot. And the way our schedules work, each week we get overtime. That's how we create our salary, a yearly salary of what we make is based on that overtime. And so if one of these people is filling in, they're not accumulating overtime, whereas a full-time person would. So I think in some cases, unless they were filling in more than 1 shift in a week, we would also be saving in that area too. But by definition, these people, unless they're just doing it on the side, and then they don't really have something else going on, most of them have full-time jobs. So when I go start dialing the phone to see if they can work, the fewer people I have to pick from, the more chances are that they're all busy. So I don't know, I'm kind of pulling a number out of my hat. I don't know exactly what would work, but I was thinking 8 to 10, either 4 to 5 paramedics, 4 to 5 EMTs that we would have to be able to pull from in these situations, and kind of mitigate these situations where we might potentially have shortfalls in staffing and that kind of thing. And I'm talking about the full-time stations here, obviously, right now.
To me, that calls, from my experience, it's called like a reserve board or something to me. For
Right,
call from.
right. I was just pulling
Yeah.
more from what we call it on the hospital
Right.
side. My
Right.
hospital experience, we call people that do that PRN,
What-
just as they needed, whereas part-time in the hospital is more like you have 20 hours that you work a week that we guarantee you, which is not something we do. So it's just a difference in terms. I think different people.
What would be required as far as the county on something like that, whether we've got 4 that's already listed. Would they'd have to go just like if you went to 8 or 10, they'd have to get signed up too with all the employment stuff for us then too, or?
Yes, they would be an employee, so they would
Okay.
do employee paperwork and be treated as any other employee.
Okay. Even for this call list,
Yes.
part-time?
Now, they would need to be working no more than, they would need to keep it under 30 hours a week on average. Otherwise, then they'd be eligible and we'd be required to offer them full benefits at that point. And so that's something that we'd have to kind of pay attention to and make sure that's not happening.
How would that, I mean, like right now, our experience has been, just, people calling in sick or a short vacation. If we ran into something, like say an employee quits and we have an opening and one of those part-time people fills in, what kind of span of time are we looking? Like if they were to happen to fill in for more than that 30 hours for just like a couple of weeks until we got an opening filled, would that create a problem or?
No.
So you're talking over a long.
Over a period of time.
A period of time.
And it's over 999, it's 1,000 hours for capers, so that's less than 30 hours a week.
Okay.
30 hours a week is when all of your health insurance and all those benefits have to kick in, so.
But this person filled 2 24-hour shifts back to back. We're not on 24 hours.
Yes, we are.
That's what we're on. Okay, so you fill them 2 back to back. What happens since that's 48 hours a week?
It just depends on how often they're doing it. If
Okay.
they're doing it, several times a month, then that would qualify them as
Right.
a benefit receiving or eligible employee.
Which would go to, like, part of the reason too, to have more people in that slot too, to where I could spread it around. In other words, you fill in a shift, but then Joe over here gets, the next time that shift comes up and, 2 days off and then the next day on that shift's open again, Joe fills it instead of you, and then that spreads it around. Whereas if I've only got 3 or 4 people to choose from, I may end up in a situation where this is the guy, you're the guy that I'm having fill all these shifts, and now you're going into that area.
It seems like that happens sometimes. Once you get somebody working, then it just keeps
Yeah.
building. So.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just something we'd have to keep track of and kind of pay
Yeah.
attention to.
Well, I don't have much of a problem with that. I think we need to,
No,
No,
as long
I
as you
think-
think you got a pool to draw from, that you could do that.
Right, well, we'd have to post the positions like we did the others, I think, and potentially maybe some of the volunteers would like to do that, but that would be a status change, and then that issue, so each volunteer, I think some of them prefer the way they have it now, because, that it would be changed, so I'm not saying that for sure that we would, but we potentially might have some volunteers that would be interested in that, and then we could also post the positions and
okay.
do that. Is there, I kind of said 8 or 10, is there a number that you guys are looking at, or just whatever I think I can do? Or what, I just, was looking to you guys for guidelines as far as that goes.
Well, you brought up part-time, or what if somebody out here in one of our little north or south towns, or down Florence, our volunteer people do want to fill that shift? Does that, and we've got some of that going on already, correct, or not? You don't have?
No, really the way they're set up as a paid volunteer, they have to do it by piecemeal that way as a paid volunteer. If they start taking part-time hours, then you've got to look at everything and look at overtime.
Yeah.
And so there's no easy way around that. It has to pretty much be one or the other. They have to do one or the other.
Right.
Nothing's easy.
No.
Doesn't look like it.
Hasn't been so far.
So we would need to actually just go ahead and get some people part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'll
Yeah.
work with Tina then on posting that. Okay.
I guess how many you need, you're thinking 8
I
or
would,
10?
I guess we could start with 8. It's something where I wouldn't want it to be too large, because
Right.
then what benefit is it up to an individual to be on that list if they're never getting, you know what I mean? So I want it to be big enough to pull from, but not so big that each individual isn't having a chance to get some hours in there. So it's kind of a balance, I
So are you
think.
okay
talking
with
a
that?
total of 8 or adding 8? A total of 8?
So I guess it would be 4. We have 4 right now, so I guess 8 would be adding 4.
Eight.
Yeah.
Let's go there and try that.
Try that, see where we're at. Okay. And then the only other thing is the
The vehicle.
vehicle
Yes.
situation. I know you guys had to wait to
Yes,
get together on that, and
yes.
as far as, and I know it's already been brought up in previous meetings as the issue there, but, I'd spoken with Diane. I live in Newton, so I'm out of county, with the vehicle, but I just need to know what your guys' thoughts are as far as me having it at home. I did say that now just going to work when I was stationed in Hillsborough takes me about 25 to 30 minutes to get to work at highway speeds. So, I mean, I am in a feasible response area for a supervisor response, obviously not first responder. You don't want to be that far away, but as far as being a backup to another crew or something, I'm in a feasible amount of response time for a portion of the county. Obviously, if it's Lincolnville, northeastern side, it's a bit of a distance for me, but I live right off of Highway 50 and the intersection there with 135, so it's all highway from pretty much from my house to here. But I do know that the vehicle situation has been an issue, so I just wanted that to be clarified. Didn't want any.
And you stay in Marion County a couple of days.
A lot,
in a row,
yeah.
don't you? You don't go home every day. And
No,
every day.
well, with my other job with St. Luke, if I'm going to be in the county the next day, I generally stay in the, like, I went home, yesterday I went home, it was my first time home in like 4 days. I was pretty much in Marion County during that whole time. So there's, so a lot of time I'm in the county anyway, because if I work at St. Luke, get off at 7, and then was going to be in Hillsborough the next morning, I generally just stay, no point in driving home to Newton. And volunteer over in Hillsborough, Bill Bradford and his wife have been very hospitable and have an extra room that they've loaned me, so I've been able to do that. So yeah, a lot of times I'm in the county even when I'm not on duty per se. So of course with the new job, I guess I'm just always on duty. But
Well, I'll just state it, and I think there's been another commissioner state sort of the same thing. Once we take the county vehicle out every day out of county lines, that creates a lot of things to look at our rest of our departments too. So I don't know that I can be in favor of the county vehicle going out of the county.
Okay.
I mean, would that create a lot of hardship for you if the
No.
days that you're in Newton?
No, I just wanted it to be. I just wanted to be clear. I just want to be clear on what you guys' expectations were. There's no hardship on me. I mean, I can still, if they need my help, I can still respond from the house. Obviously, I'll just be in private vehicle at normal response and everything. But it doesn't create a hardship on me per se.
I mean, if you got county business out of county, that's different than you're in, direct.
Right.
You've got county business.
Right.
That's where I'm at. But
Right.
if
No.
it's a personal thing, we go just going home with the night. I don't know. I'm not-
So, what do you think?
Well, I understand the concern about it, but we create another set of issues on the other side of this, is responding to a personal vehicle and we have any kind of mishap or an accident, we've got liability issues there as well. On a vehicle the county isn't insured. We're also not with emergency equipment, so we can't
No
run hot.
lights.
Right. No. Yeah.
And that's a problem. So we're weighing something here, and I completely understand taking them out of county too. I get it, because that discussion comes up a lot in different settings. It's one of those, I guess, you need to look at it pretty carefully, because you're really weighing one versus the other. And
Now,
there's a lot to
if
consider.
you're just driving back and forth to report to the office,
Yeah.
that's different than if you're responding to calls from home, like during your off time, or during your time where you're not actively in the office.
Well, personally, I'd rather not face the liability. That would be my number one.
That's where I would start.
Yeah, that would be my number one, not face the liability.
And if you're on call, and we have that expectation that he's gonna respond, and the ability to do so in an expedient way with emergency
Well, I guess,
equipment is important.
yeah, I'm just saying that I'm technically, I don't know what you, in my case, for this position, what you mean by on call, I'm at home if something happens and somebody needs me. I guess that's where the difficulty lies, because, you're talking about, well, just going back and forth to the office. Well, in this position, I guess I'm always sort of on call. So it's kind of the definition kind of gets a little weird.
So personally, with that in mind, I'm almost thinking that driving the vehicle would be the wise thing to do at this time, to go ahead and allow him to take the vehicle. To prevent us from getting any type of liability, I think would be smart. Stuff does happen, especially when you're in a hurry to make a call. So I'm in favor of allowing him to take the vehicle home.
Based on liability, I don't think we had much choice.
So I think you're right. That could eat our lunch fast. So, do we need to take action on
I
that?
think that would be
Mhm.
appropriate.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a motion then to allow Bob Church to take the county EMS vehicle to home
Okay.
and to respond to emergency call situations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kent, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you may take the vehicle. Anything else?
That's it as far as things that I was gonna bring up. Do you guys have anything for me?
Everything going pretty smooth?
As can be expected at the moment. That still have, this is the last week, so still have like towards the end of the week until I, get the schedules for the volunteer stations to know what holds there are. I do know we have one volunteer in Peabody that put in for a leave of absence for the next couple of months, and that it's a, pretty tight crew down there as far as, there's not a lot of extra, so my assumption would be that we'll end up with some holes there in Peabody with that leave of absence. But I'll have to see when Tammy gets me the schedule, what we're looking at.
Okay. So just one leave of absence is all you received?
Right, and that was put in for before I took, Jamie showed me the letter today. I kind of heard about it, but Jamie showed me the letter today. That was put in for, towards the end of Ed's tenure when he was still here, I believe. So, but, I'd heard reference to it, but I saw the letter today, so.
Sure. Okay. Okay.
Anything else?
No, I have nothing else.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Bob.
Either way, you said.
Yeah, let's keep it to 2 minutes.
Okay, so next on the agenda is Linda Peters, Road in Liberty Township. Thank you. Oh.
Okay, County Commissioners, again, my name is Linda Peters. I'm a Township Trustee for Liberty Township, Chairperson of the County Road and Bridge Committee, and also a taxpayer in Marion County. I'm here today as a follow-up to the presentation that I had at the County Commissioners meeting held September 10th. Let me at this time refresh everyone's memory on what had been addressed. One of them was the blatant lack of communication, not only to the residents of Marion County, but also to the county commissioners from the Road and Bridge Department. I based that on the lack of knowledge from the commissioners to learn that there had been no graders in our district, one, for almost 3.5 months. The lack of knowledge from the commissioners to learn that the county roads were not going to be mowed to reduce not only visibility, but further destruction of the already serious conditions of the roads. The lack of knowledge from the commissioners to learn that the mowers were broken, and when the road and bridge was further pressed at the meeting, found out that the tractors also were in serious condition. The lack of knowledge from the commissioners to learn that the road and bridge supervisor was allowing employees to put county fuel into their own vehicles. The lack of knowledge from the commissioners to learn that the road and bridge supervisor has a plan, but they do not know what the plan is, except that there is a plan. And the lack of knowledge from the commissioners to learn that the road and bridge supervisor is indicating to the taxpayer that road that was purchased outside of Marion County did not meet state inspections and would not hold up on our roads. The second thing that we refreshed that I want to talk about is the Road and Bridge Department's blatant lack of understanding and education of the importance of roads in Marion County and how these roads impact the economic development of our county, which we so desperately need. Based on that is from county road and bridge supervisors admit to the county commissioners at one of the weekly meetings that they themselves farm the ditches, which only leads to more destruction of county roads. The Road and Bridge Department's refusal to bring to the commissioners the serious road conditions in certain areas. The Road and Bridge Department's lack of budgeting skills and reporting to the commissioners, such as not budgeting for items to assist in road repair, such as mowers, tractors, repairs, etc., but budgeting for vehicles for themselves to drive in. And the refusal to work with township trustees to develop a plan inside their townships, but yet complain that some townships do not have trustees. And the lack of understanding that if people cannot have access to work or home unless they have an all-terrain vehicle, people and companies will not move to Marion County. So, the results of that meeting was, after the presentation from the last meeting, the chairperson of the commissioners, Diane Novak, indicated that she was going to contact outside sources to determine how the county needs to address these serious roads. Questions arose from the room at that time as why the county commissioners were finding that education and resources when we have a road and bridge supervisor that either should have the answers or that department should be asking for further assistance and then reporting back to the commissioners. The county commissioners agreed that graders would be back in District 1 and roads would be worked on immediately, which would include grading and mowing. I asked, as a township trustee of Liberty Township and chairperson of the Road and Bridge Committee, that a meeting be held in the evening with a combination of trustees from different townships to determine a short-term plan and also a long-term plan to start resolving the road crisis. Where are we now? I contacted chairperson Diane Novak, and she indicated that she had contacted the state engineer. The road graders and mowing has been in District 1. Again, I want to be very clear. I'm not blaming the graders in this area, as they have a monumental task after months of neglect. I want to apologize in advance for the anger and the disgust that they see in eyes of the residents, the landowners, and the taxpayers as they try to do the impossible task of putting these roads back with little training and expertise. Today, I'm going to bring you the results of the plan. Pictures don't lie. These pictures are just a few examples. I'll show it to you. This is a picture of the road where the gravel is on the side. You'll see the ditch here, and there's no way for the water to get into that ditch. This is a picture of where they tried to grade the sides, balled it up on the side of a culvert. And we put a yardstick so it's almost 2 foot, over 2 feet. This is a road that was graded, and the dirt now has gone to the ditches.
What's the first pile back up there on the, is that just throwing it back on the shoulder? This first pile along here, the black line along there? Or is that just?
That was the ditch. This
Yeah,
was the ditch.
This right through here.
Right.
I see
There's-
this, but
right.
yeah.
This,
They got it over here too, or just?
no,
got it?
they cut it,
Yeah.
pulled it all over here, and
Right.
put it into that ditch.
Okay. What kind of road is that, no maintenance or anything?
Well, they're all no maintenance.
No. You don't
Minimum
understand.
maintenance, dirt.
Okay,
They're dirt
that's what I'm
roads.
saying, minimum
Yes,
maintenance,
yes.
okay?
This, yes, well, that's the road. That's the result of,
Looks like a lot of wash down through here, though.
that's all the road that came and washed into that, and so they dug it down. This is another picture of where they just dropped the blade, mowed it, or graded it, and here, right here, is the ditch. Clear over here. So, and you can see that down here, they even pulled out even further.
Go to the whatever side.
Okay, so these pictures are just a few of the examples of the plan as determined by the road and bridge supervisor. Graders have been busy. Our roads now are a half a foot lower in many areas. Ditches and culverts are going to be more closed when rains come, and the roads have become even more narrow. Ditches have been made in some roads only on one side, which you can see, so that the water either has to run down the road or across the road, which is going to leave more ruts. Roads have now become the ditch, because now the ditches are closed. The sad result of these pictures indicate that a lot of tax dollar was used, and once rain comes, the roads will be back to square one. We're going to start all over again, because, anyway. Where do we go from here? Taxpayers in District 1 who have paid their taxes want to know if they're going to receive a 25% reduction in their property tax, since they pay for services they did not receive for a fourth of the year this past year. Taxpayers want to have a road and bridge department that communicates with townships, commissioners, and patrons in Marion County. We want a department that can budget appropriately and can develop short and long-term plans for our county. We want a department that understands the importance of appropriate training for their employees and what that looks like. We want a department that looks for expertise in areas of concern. We want a road and bridge department that is not always behind the 8 ball, but is forward-thinking and able to communicate that. This would lead to not feeling like the department needs to be micromanaged. Taxpayers want the assurance of the correct maintenance of all roads in Marion County. We as taxpayers are constantly threatened that if we want them fixed, that our taxes will increase because of the monumental task of fixing them. Let me be clear, it's not because we have not been paying enough taxes, it's because of the mismanagement of the tax dollar due to lack of proper maintenance of the roads. Pictures do not lie. Many taxpayers have called me about these roads, and I guess I can be their voice. What I hear from them is maybe alarming to you commissioners. They are fed up with the results of the road conditions, and the threats of wanting drivable roads means increases of their taxes. I want you to understand that I'm the tip of the iceberg and want to continue to work towards a solution. Many in the county that call me want to have another county lake meeting to help you commissioners understand the frustration. They don't think they need your permission to do that. Others want to start a petition to recall all 3 of you, since they feel you 3 commissioners have the power to change this mess and don't. Then maybe the county needs to try to find commissioners at will. Let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Well, I did do as I told, I did contact the state engineer, and he does want to come down. We do have a conference coming up, and it's in October, and he wants to come down shortly after that to look at the roads and see what he would suggest would be the plan to get things back in the correct condition. I also did contact a couple private contractors to find out what they would charge per mile to come in and just cut ditches, crown roads, and work on some of those so that we can work on that area and get those roads back in condition. I do have those estimates. I didn't bring them with me today. They were a lot higher than what I ever imagined. I want to talk to Jesse as to what he thinks it would cost as well. So, I know looking at these pictures, this is terrible. Actually, it's just sloppy work, really, in my opinion. It's just real sloppy work. But I know we can't let it continue.
Well,
So-
and I guess that's what I'm here is
Yeah.
because, yeah, they did as you asked. They went out there, they opened up these roads. They took 6 more inches off the road.
Mhm.
The next rainfall, they're gonna take 6 more inches off the road because they didn't fix the problem. They made them drivable, but they didn't fix the problem. And I think we have hashed and rehashed this.
Mhm.
We know what needs to be done, but for some reason, we're not doing it. We're not getting it done.
And when the next rains come, you're gonna have ruts and runs and all that type of stuff,
Exactly.
which is
We're
gonna
gonna
compound the problem.
Start all over again.
Mhm.
And so the money that we're spending every time we go out there,
Is a waste.
it really, you know, It really is.
I mean, I can't dispute a word you're saying. It's all right there, and it's the same as what I seen when I drove, well, it's a little better there with the grader. I did you
Right.
get down the road before, we couldn't even get down
We
the
couldn't
road.
even get down the roads.
Right.
Right.
This is low maintenance road, this one is.
That, well, we determined at our township meeting, Mr. Becker was there, that low maintenance is twice a month. Low maintenance in Marion County says that graders come down their roads twice a month. So every road in our township is a low maintenance road, because we don't have graders, well, we didn't for 3.5 months at all. But our graders do not go down a road more than twice a month. So that would be considered then, all of our roads in our township are low maintenance roads.
That would be true
Minimum.
to the county then as well, not just your township,
Well,
right?
because that was the definition.
Mhm.
I mean, that, am I not right?
So I understood it, twice a month.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess low maintenance is any road,
So,
it's not closed.
but these roads are, people drive them on a daily basis. So it's not a twice a year,
Is this a bus route or a school route?
no, that would not be, no.
Okay.
Because they have to go around, because they can't. I mean, most of the,
Well, there's a lot of them that, I mean, the school routes have a basic route with the rock and stuff, that's what I'm getting
Right,
at.
right. But I know the schools
This one-
have adjusted, yeah, yeah. But again, you can see, water cannot get off the roads. It will only lead to more erosion, and what it did was completely narrowed up. Most of our roads in Liberty Township, most of them, I would say 75% are now a one-lane road. People actually have to get off, stop, and get off, and move
In order to pass.
in order to get around. So,
I don't know why. I've questioned this myself 100,000 times, all throughout the county. Why they always put that windrow of rock like that. I mean, that's not just limited to your township.
no.
I mean, that's all over the county. They just do that constantly. And I know the way it usually works is when they do that, they should have weep holes in it to where they take the blade and
Right.
push so the water can exit at some point. But our township, or our county here never has done that. I've never seen a weep hole anywhere.
Oh, yeah, they do, but just
I-
some of our graders don't.
I have not seen any, so
But I
I'm
guess-
speaking for myself.
Right, and I guess that, Mr. Dalton, that's exactly what I'm talking about
Yeah.
on one of these things. If one of them does it, why is our road and bridge not telling them all to do it? And making sure that they do it. I'm not sure if anyone has driven down these roads since they were done. I don't know if our road and bridge supervisor even managed it. I don't know. We didn't see him, but I wasn't out there the whole time. But that's the difference between a 2-pass and a 3-pass, from what I'm understanding. A 2-pass puts that over. A 3-pass will bring it back up and crown the road. And we've had that discussion many, many times with the Road and Bridge Department. It saves us money. It takes more time to do a three pass versus a 2-pass. Well, I'm gonna tell you, that's a waste of money that we just did. And I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody, because, I mean, I think the graders were out there trying their best. They just, I'm not sure if they know what we're supposed to be doing, except just opening up those roads, just get the roads open. Well, yeah, they got them open, but it's gonna be closed the next big rain.
The only thing that can be done on a road like this is you go out here and you cut the ditches, you pull them all up, and you put all of this on the road.
Mr. Dalkey?
That's
Yeah,
the
and
only-
we're not road and bridge people, are we? But that's what us farmers say the same,
Yeah.
and no one will listen to us.
And-
No one will listen to
Well,
us.
I think the monumental task of, if this isn't just in your township, but I see 24 of them up there, there's a whole lot of them, they're tackling some of them, but they don't have the manpower even to tackle every one of these roads like this.
But at the same time, bring it back up. And maybe the test won't be there the next time it rains. I think that's the start.
If you put this up out of the ditch on here, you've got nothing but a slop mess, and it won't look like this. And I think that's what they're really scared of leaving, is a slop fest, because they think they're gonna get more hassle than.
You know, it's a lot bigger process, because you're gonna have to, once you bring all that up, you're gonna have to pack it. You know, usually you're gonna have to have a packing machine to actually get that stuff to sit there. But I know, I know these roads, they're never gonna get better until all that's done.
But you know, what you're overlooking, I think, is Road and Bridge created this problem, because it shouldn't be to this point. It should not
Because
be
we
to
can't
this point.
just dropping the blade.
We-
And that's
They need
exactly.
to be practicing proper maintenance all the time. This should never happen. This is not maintenance.
You know, I suppose is that considered a gravel road, or is that just
It
dirt?
looks like dirt road.
It may
That
have
has
gravel at one
It
time.
might have had gravel at one time.
You know, I'm sure that their thought is we need to cut down and get the rut out.
Well,
Sometimes the ruts
absolutely.
are 6 inches deep.
And we even
Well-
had a supervisor come and tell us that we push everything into the ditches and fill the ditches. That was about the supervisor before, and.
well, that was years and years ago.
No,
This
no,
right
no, no,
here,
no, no.
the one that you told, years and years ago.
No, not years and years ago. This has been within the last 5 years.
That's years and years ago. This
Well,
right here is
but
not
one time,
happened 5 years
one
ago.
time of going out and doing all of this, flattening this road out, that's where it filled, a lot of it filled.
I don't know. I heard them say that the roads have not been in this condition in the last 10 years. I mean, I've heard that said many times. This has been culminating, let's just even say the last 5 years. You know, it only takes one, you could do this in 1 year. You could do this in 1 year.
To one road, I mean,
Well, yeah, and I'm looking at this picture of this road. So to say that this right here damage was done 5, 6 years ago is ridiculous. We're talking about today.
no,
And
it's not.
this is what we're seeing today.
We had to drop, right, because of, I think I agree with both of you. You're saying because it was neglected earlier, but now what we're still doing is we're still just dropping that blade.
Still
So
not.
that's why the ditches are so much higher than the sides of the road, you know?
Well, there's no ditch at all. I mean. how
But
do
there
you-
was,
Yeah, but I
at
mean,
one
how
point.
would you even start to build a ditch?
Well, you have to cut off in here.
Well, I
to do
mean,
maintenance.
it's a major excavating job. Yeah, it can be done, but that's a major excavating job.
But what
And-
choice have you got?
Yeah.
You gotta do it.
And I understand that we've got, but we've got to get the education in here, the thought process that if a 3-pass is supposed to work, and we need to go see other counties, what do they use, and we need to adopt whatever we need to do. I mean, yeah, now you tell us that it costs way too much money to fix them, which I agree can't, that's where we're at. But yet, when we try to do maintenance, they tell us it costs too much money to do the 3-pass. We're gonna do the 2-pass. Well, we already know it's not working, but we just keep doing it.
Yeah. I'll agree. I don't like to see windrows on the side of the road. I mean, that stuff ought to be on the road.
And brought back up, because you're right, Randy, it is gonna be a mucky mess, but hopefully some of that will stay, and the next time we pull it up, a little more will stay, and now we're starting to build that crown.
Is that one place, was that a culvert that was plugged up? Isn't that just silt that's gone across the road?
Something's.
It looks
Yes.
like it.
Something's washed down there, yeah.
Yes.
picture.
I
Went
think
across
most
the road.
all the culverts are clogged up.
Oh, yes.
Aren't they?
Well, I
Yes.
didn't know if that was a culvert or if there was actually
You
a
talking about
creek in
this
there
one?
somewhere.
You talking about this one?
No, this one
No,
right here. That's
Yeah.
what
This
it's
one,
about.
see, that's all,
And I
that's
have other
silt.
pictures, these are just a few that I brought,
That's
you know, and I
topsoil.
know that there's other parts of this county that are just as bad.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
this
I'm
is-
not saying
Right.
that we're the lucky ones, you know, that, but,
I see through this area though, the farmland on both sides is, no matter what, it's probably a foot higher or so than
But now-
a foot higher. yeah.
right, but it wasn't,
Well, yeah, I agree, but I
because,
see it everywhere.
because we keep dropping it. We keep dropping that blade, grading it, a big rain comes along, where do you think all that dirt's gonna go?
Creek.
It's gonna go to the creek, which then impedes the backup of water, which is gonna flood it more. I mean,
And somewhere on a road that we went on, it was a rock road, and there was, the water come down, cause it couldn't get off, it was similar, same thing, same
Can't get
situation.
off.
And the rock, there was so much rock off to the side, like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was so much rock off the road over into the creek
Right.
bed,
Right,
that I could took my pickup there and shoveled myself a whole load out almost.
right, right.
Of rock, that was a waste.
Well, I'll tell you, I drove, I went sightseeing yesterday evening, and I went through Chase County from Clements back through all the Chase County back to Marion County. And some township operator over there, he cut gosh, I measured it about 1,000 feet, he cut 500 to 1,000 feet, he would do what you're saying. He'd just take his blade, 2 foot, move the rock pile, because the rock pile's for a month later to come back over the top of the road for a month later, but he did cut that, and yeah, that's what we hope to do. And if
Well, I
Jesse,
don't
if
know
we're not
if it
getting
should
that
be a
out there.
hoe
Where did you do that, Randy?
Huh?
in
Where-
Chase.
From Chase, Clements, go back the back way, but it's all rock, they're rock country over there.
So was that in Chase County or in
It
Marion?
was in Chase County,
Yeah.
it wasn't in Marion
I
County.
can tell the instant, we've got grass in Chase County, I can tell the instant I hit Chase County.
Yeah.
Because the roads are, they do it that way.
Yeah, that's
And
why
they don't
my
have
assault
the erosion, they don't have water running down the road. The water goes down the ditch.
And even though that would be the thing to do, that's not gonna help these roads now anymore.
No,
I mean,
not when there's that up there, you gotta
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
That's,
So-
we all know that.
Exactly.
It's a matter of taking, the only thing we have that really, besides graders, is the paddle scraper. We've got one little paddle scraper that's probably 30 years old, and that's not even gonna start to help all of us, I mean. in
Well, I
the
mean,
same
some of
situation.
that's almost bulldozer work.
If major construction, major construction, you can do that.
How many miles of road would you say that is needed? I mean, to at least clean up the main road,
Oh,
how
I
many
have-
miles would you guess?
I have no idea because I haven't gone into the other sections, or the other townships and stuff.
In yours?
I bet
Would you
Liberty
take a guess?
Township it'd be 15 to 20 miles.
Yes, yes. And then you've got about that many in Lehigh, and you've got about that many in Minnow. So,
And the biggest, I don't know exactly where you're at in Liberty, but right through this
South
area,
Cottonwood.
we're Cottonwood.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
all feeding Cottonwood.
right. But the
That's-
things that people call and tell me is, road and bridge used to cut out trees out of ditches.
Yes.
That would then keep the water from going on down and not impeding the water and tearing up the roads. We don't do that anymore. We aren't cleaning out the culverts anymore. We're not doing the things that, and those could have all been done when it was dry.
Mhm.
So, I'm just saying, I think we're ready. We wanna know as the
So you
people
wanna
that-
set up a meeting, is that what you wanna do, is that what you're
Is
requesting here?
Yes, I guess that's where do we go from here?
Well, we gotta do something about this, I mean, really, seriously.
I'd like to see us get a report from an engineer, so we'll have firsthand knowledge
Right.
of what his thoughts are and where we can go. Because and it's fine to meet with everybody, but I'm afraid we're just gonna be slinging mud at each other.
I did talk to Norm Bowers, he is the state engineer, I don't know if you care for him or not, but it's
It
free.
shouldn't matter.
It is free, and he is an engineer, and he would come out and he will look at the roads and he will give us a plan.
Could he give us like a report or
Yes.
just his firsthand knowledge? I think that'd be a good start,
He
because
will
I
give
do
us,
know,
yeah.
that we have some engineering firms around the
And I-
area that
Mhm.
might be willing to work with us on a kind of a monthly set dollar basis.
And I was looking at just getting a second opinion or an opinion from an engineer at no cost
Well,
to start
yeah.
with. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know,
if the state will do that for us, that's what
well,
we need to
he
do.
will do it.
But I'm
if
just
we
talking
wanna-
about going forward.
Okay,
We may have to look at the budget to see if we can afford to spend X number of dollars a month to get a certain amount of service from an engineering firm.
Ms. Novak,
yes,
I just wanna say, I agree with Kent. I learned, I'm not very smart, and I learned a long time ago, if I don't know how to do something, my best bet is to hire somebody that does know and have them do it. Or either that or show me how to do it. There's a lot of things I don't know how to do. But if I wanna get it done, I better hire somebody that knows how and can help me get it done. And that's what looks like it needs to be done here. I mean, we've gotta get some expert advice, figure this out before it gets any worse.
Yeah, and I called Burkamp Engineering Company and asked them what they would charge to come in and do 1 mile of rock road and 1 mile of dirt road. Ditches and crowning is all I asked for, ditches and crowning. And they told me $120,000 a mile for the dirt roads and $165,000 a mile for the rock. But that's because they would be bringing in a crew and the proper equipment, and they would do the job properly. So like I said, I was checking, and that's why then I thought, you know, and I agree with you, and I'm not even opposed to bringing somebody in and just, you know, like I say, pick a couple of the main roads and get that started, get that done right away, and then have our crew work with.
And in the meantime, try to educate
Exactly.
the people that are ready
Yes.
to work for the county,
Mhm.
how to do it right.
Right, I agree.
I mean, just laying it down so the farmers can get to their fields for harvest, that's not working.
No, I agree. And I calls and stuff, getting more, but I wanted something to compare with Jesse as well with those to see if, and I'm sure they shot me a high price, because they didn't look at the roads, they
Sure.
just, you know. So I'm sure that it was a high price, but even still, I wanted to just have a basic idea of what would it
Or
cost,
they have people in the county that could do it.
whatever we could do. And I did call, I think it was Donkey Construction or something, and they said they're not interested. I think, I did call more than one, but
Sure.
they weren't interested.
Unroofed construction.
I can't remember, it was another one.
West Branch Excavating.
West Branch, yeah.
Okay, I called 2, and the other
Sure.
one they sent me an actual estimate was Brookfield, but anyway, I was
Right.
trying to do some work on it.
But I think someone to actually, I mean, I'm gonna recommend that we get someone to actually come out and look at it, whether it be Norm Bowers, to look at it, then sit down after he's looked at it, sit down, take our plat map, find the areas that are really severe and ones that aren't maybe as severe. Give us a recommendation of what we do with these roads, like some of these roads. What do we do with some of these other roads that we're not, we haven't got ditches, we've got gravel, there's ditches, but nothing gets there. And sit down with, you know, the road and bridge and talk about that, and then, you know, start budgeting for things that we're gonna need to repair these roads. If we're gonna need a Caterpillar, maybe we ought to be budgeting for that. If we need, those things that go across and tampen the ground, those rollers. Yeah, maybe we need to be budgeting, but we need to be looking at those things instead of new vehicles. I'm just saying.
And I agree.
The worst part on this side, where the opposite side where they drug from, is that's created the same thing.
And
that
now
they
our
make.
road is gonna be this, as we're driving.
Yeah, and then you've got that 8-inch, 6 or 8-inch ditch over there, or not ditch, but bank.
Mhm.
And,
And hope
And
it don't
that's-
get wet and
and
slide
I-
off.
I just know that if you're the grader operator, this job here and what I see in this mile is $120,000 job, what you just said, or so,
A mile.
a mile.
And that was the
And I know that grader operator, if it's just his machine, is gonna be there for a month on that 1 mile.
Oh, no.
3, 2, just one grader, he's gonna at least to finish it out. I mean, you
I
get
think
it up
it's
there, you
about-
get it rough, and then he's gonna go compact, if you want it compact, you know,
And that's if there's a ditch to start with.
Well, yeah,
There's no
just-
ditch at all.
there's no ditches to start with, and so I'm just saying, I'm just looking at a time frame that we could get something with one grader. I mean, you can do a lot in a grader. I mean,
Well,
they
I've
can do
seen
a
them
lot.
up in my area rebuilt roads, not to that extreme, of course, but a week, 2 weeks is all it took them to get it. I mean, that road, that,
There was a ditch
grader
there.
can really, you can angle that, layout, all of the things, and you can cut some dirt right away.
If you've got a flat ground, that, where this road here that she's got the picture of, you gotta get rid of trees, you gotta, and then make your ditch so that it does get away.
Mhm.
But you've gotta get, that's all, it takes a lot of time to
Well,
do
I know,
something.
but look how much time we
Yeah.
saved by not doing it.
Well, I'm not saying we didn't save time, but I'm just saying that it's
And we didn't save money.
probably not, probably not.
Well,
Well,
I know
it's
we
just
did it
useful.
because it's gonna cost a lot more to fix them now,
Yeah.
so, because they've gone down the road, they've gone down the creek,
But-
so.
Do you wanna keep these pictures? May I have them for a little while? Do you want to keep them? I'll make sure you get them back.
Sure.
We did hire a part-time experienced blade man this morning. Maybe we could talk to Road and Bridge about just placing him in there for a while. Because he's got 15 years of experience, he's part-time, but
Well, and can't, I just really feel like we gotta have a plan here, instead of just getting
well,
something
yeah,
in
we have to
there.
have the plan, but I'm just talking about
Right,
get us through fall.
and if there needs to be a bulldozer in, it doesn't need to be for every road. So maybe we hire those kind of things out after we have a plan for that road.
Yeah, it might be a piecemeal.
Right, because I see it more as a piecemeal kind of situation on some of these roads. Contract out the bulldozing, contract out the, so.
Can you identify which roads out there, I know you can, would be your priority roads, your main roads? I mean, could you tell me,
And that's one thing I wanted to stress is communication with the township boards.
Mhm.
I mean, we represent the people. We've been elected. We have yet to get a response from our Minnow Township letter that we sent at the end of August. No communication. We have no idea what's going on. I mean, just even a phone call. Well, we're gonna have graders in your area. Just something. I mean, some communication.
And I think we did
That
that
doesn't take
in our
money.
township, didn't we? We identified identified our roads, in our township. We went through and said,
Right.
which roads are the gold standard, what we feel like is our main ones, which are the medium that just need to be graded periodically, and the minimum maintenance, and that's when Mr. Dalkey, I found out minimum maintenance was twice a month, which meant our gold roads, every road was minimum maintenance, because it was twice a month.
so do you have a copy of that I could have? Just
Yeah,
my,
not
roads,
every-
regular
yes, I
gold
can get-
roads?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you sent that to me,
Yes, so,
yeah, that would be great. So those would be the ones
We
that,
could do that in Minnow also. I
well,
mean,
that,
It would
yeah,
take
that would
time.
be great, I'd like that, yeah, if you could do that.
because I think that's what we started and
Mhm.
tried to do, was meet with our county commissioner and our road and bridge at those township meetings to determine what was our plan, what were we gonna do, where were we going with that, and so those are things that, we were trying to identify. So,
Right.
you wanna know
I
where?
get which one is this, Lee?
Communication doesn't cost any extra taxpayer money.
No, I fully understand that. So then you'll get me of your,
You may have to give me some time, but yes.
oh, that's fine, yes, that's fine. The ones that are your number one priority and number two and number
Yes,
three.
and we've got our bus routes, and we've got,
Mhm.
dairy, and,
Sure. That'd be great.
the golf course.
I'm more than willing to come out and drive those roads with one of you folks too. I've been on some of them, but I know not all of them.
clubs?
What's that?
You're gonna bring your golf clubs?
Well, could, but I'm not very good at it. I'd have to have a lot of golf balls.
It's,
See if I can figure out this out.
it's just that the farmers are farming their roads. I mean, we're using these roads now, and so,
They rebuilt the road.
the minimum, the very minimum maintenance roads,
just
extremely.
gravel.
Their road just a year ago,
That is,
west of
that
15,
actually is.
190th, I think. And the farmer on the south side of it is right back to farming up to the edge of the road. And they had it rebuilt,
No.
they did a pretty good job of rebuilding that road. And he
Now, we have a policy in place for that, don't we? And
They're
so
supposed-
that'd be a perfect
they're
example
supposed
of
to mail
where we
letters
should
out
be doing
To
something.
anybody that's identified.
Mhm.
So if we can identify, they should get a letter.
That's right.
190th,
So-
just west of 15 highway.
Mhm.
West of 15?
Yeah, he said that they had ditches
On the
in the
south
road.
side.
No,
Large
it's
landowner.
now has it all the way back to the road again.
Pays
Was the
lots
ditch,
of
was the,
taxes.
had the ditch been cleaned out?
Yeah,
Yes.
the ditch had been
How in the
rebuilt.
world they even farm up to the road? did
Well,
they?
it wasn't very, very deep,
Oh,
because it's
yeah.
fairly level, it's at the top of the hill, but he just, back to the edge of the road. I don't know if you took a picture of that, Linda?
But I didn't bring it.
You know, we need to
It just makes the
identify
hair
those.
stand
so
But at
let
the
us-
same
back
time,
down
you
there.
had a road and bridge employee that said he farmed the ditches because he didn't like the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's what
so
they
he
always say.
farmed the ditches because the weeds. You had a supervisor at this meeting say that. So, just saying.
Mhm.
So, we can't be slapping people's hands if people that work for the county are doing it.
No, everybody's the same. Treat everybody the same.
So,
So, okay, so we have something in place.
okay, so yes.
Do we want to have a meeting of, like, for example, the township board people and maybe Road and Bridge and the commission? I mean, so select people to start figuring out a plan, to get a plan in place, or, and then, of course, implement some people to come out and look,
Right.
engineers and things, to see what we see, so that
Right.
we start the wheels turning to get something in place. I mean, is that satisfactory?
I think township trustees.
I think
Right.
that would be
Yes.
the easy.
That's a starting
pick.
place.
That would be it. I'm
Because
not a
they're the
grand
elected.
meeting, but it's-
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's an elected, officials in those townships.
Okay.
And then, you know, I think those township trustees, we know what's going on in those, I mean, we know.
Yes. Mhm.
So to be told not, that, I mean, it's just silliness, but
Mhm.
then to come and meet with your engineers, after they've talked with you, we look at the plat, and then kind of, okay, what's it gonna take? Where are we at, you
Mhm.
know? And I think all of the trustees are very willing to work with you. I mean, it's not like we're
Exactly.
against you, we want to fix this problem. But it has to be in the evening, because people are not gonna be able to get off work.
So can you
That's fine.
hand pick some roads in Minnow County that the engineer could look at?
Sure.
Because, you know, just to say, go out to Minnow
Yeah,
Township.
no.
Well, I would
like-
have them
Well,
contact you in your
Right,
township.
and I've identified those on that.
On Minnows?
Some of those are.
On
in
Meadow,
Township.
Lehigh, and
Okay,
Liberty.
well, if we've got that,
Yeah.
then we don't need you to be doing
Okay.
extra on
And,
that.
and I also think you can't just invite all trustees across
No.
the county. We need
No.
to start with these 3 township boards.
3 or 4, you
Yes,
know.
where there is,
Do quadrants.
right,
That's the way I look at it. is
Yes.
Maybe do quadrants, you know,
Just remember, we gotta look at it.
oh,
all.
I know,
Okay.
I know, but.
That's all I'm saying, just remember.
I hear you.
but maybe if you did Lehigh, Risley, Minnow, and Liberty as a quadrant.
Yes,
Maybe then do Logan, Blaine, Moore, and Durham as a quadrant. And then, well, or whatever, I mean, I don't know how it goes, but I'm just throwing out, I'm just looking up at your plat map, that's, you know, I'm a
That's-
teacher.
That's the big thing, every time you go to do something, is how do you address everything?
yes.
Right.
But you have to start
Somewhere,
small
Somewhere.
and,
yeah.
Or you could do 6.
Because I think
could do
if I took
6.
the 4 over there, Fairplay, Summit, Milton, their problem's gonna be a little bit different than
Yes.
yours, because they've got nothing but rock, hard rock, and
Right.
you guys got dirt
Right.
and wash dirt.
Right.
We've still got some crooks over there in those, but it's just a little different area.
But then getting that consultant in, taking a look, working with us, and then as, you know, so we try one road, but we train the rest of the graders to do that.
Mhm.
So that we don't have to have that person do every one of the roads, but it's a training process. So, with someone overseeing it.
So would you be satisfactory, for, I haven't set a date or anything like that for Norm, or anything, I will talk to Jesse and stuff and see what they think, get back with you, and see you ladies can
Yeah.
try to get with your groups, so we
Sure.
can come up with you.
sure.
Commission willing to go with an evening
Don't we-
meeting?
Don't we wanna have a engineer
That's what I just
before-
said.
after we get that, then set the date?
Well, that's what I just said to her, that I
Once
will
you get the
ahold-
engineer.
Once I get that and get all those dates set up, then get a hold of these people right here to set
Right.
the date for us to get together with all the information.
And I would be glad to drive, I would volunteer my services to drive with the engineer, to show
I
him.
would hope you would, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So-
somebody from
and-
each
and-
township that
yeah.
knows
That
the area
also.
would
Right.
do that.
Okay,
And
I
so
got
that way, it's not just, so,
Right.
anyway,
That sounds like a good deal, so I'll try to set up a time, I'll get back with you.
okay?
And you,
Thank you.
and relay that to you in the commission, so we can get started, okay?
I think
Right.
what she meant to say, she might have to drive the engineer, cause he might not have to drive.
I-
She's got four-wheel drive.
Yes, she does.
I do have to tell you though, the FedEx, this is how bad our roads are in District One. The FedEx driver came and delivered a package to my son. And he said, do you know Linda Peters? And my son said, yeah, it's my mom. And he said, could you deliver this package? He said, I do not want to drive down another one of these roads in Marion County. And it happened to be the other Linda Peters, Rod's wife. There are two in the county. So, I've got the Wichita Eagle and Beacon refuses to give us,
Cancel our paper.
will refuse us to drive down Marion County roads, to give us a paper.
They won't bring any now at all.
And so, and now that person really doesn't want to drive it. So what is that telling people out there in these other counties? So,
I want to bring up one final point, which is a little bit different, but you pointed out here, and I read this before, about our supervisor allowing employees to put county fuel into their own vehicles.
yes.
You brought that point up
Yes.
before, and I think that's something we have to look at in our policy. So I just want to let you know that we will be addressing that as
Okay.
well.
Because I know a lot of farmers want to know where their voucher is, because they want to fill their gas tanks too.
I hear you.
So,
But I believe that was to drive the road or something, was
No.
that's what he said?
Nope.
He,
What was it?
What he did,
Mowing,
go
he
ahead.
was mowing. He mowed his ditches.
well, he mowed quite a bit in his area.
He
I
said-
just
Yeah,
said-
he asked Jesse if he could, because he had caught up on his section up there in the very far northwest. I knew that there was no more available, which there isn't.
Okay.
And Jesse said, well, yeah, you can go ahead and do that. And he said, well, then can I get some fuel if I use my mower and my tractor? Whether that was right or not, I don't know, but he was mowing in his district.
Could I say something? Jesse said that he told his employees if they mowed at their place, that they could fill up their gas cans for their mowers. And they would get time for it. They would be able to clock in for that time.
And that's exactly what he told us at the township meeting. He said that the employee was mowing his ditches, and he asked Jesse if he could, clock those hours, because they knew they weren't gonna mow ditches. And Jesse said, yes, and make sure that you fill your gas tank. And at that point, at the township meeting, I looked at Jesse and I said, Jesse, there are lots of farmers out there that are mowing their ditches.
I want mine
Yes.
filled.
And his statement back was, and I really appreciate it, Linda.
Let me ask you this, when you say his ditches, are you talking about the guy who works for Marion County, his personal property ditches, his ditches, or is he, when he says his, does he mean his area ditches?
Well, it would be like,
Both, probably.
You can't
In
answer
front
that
of his
because you don't know. He
house.
didn't,
Yeah.
he didn't specify that.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying, that some people would say he's mowing his ditch. Well, that Jesse might mean that as his area. Now, if he's mowing his personal ditches, we got a problem.
Well, that's what he told me.
Yeah. Well,
They could clock
okay.
in and everything.
I just wanted to clarify that I think that's, in my opinion, that's what Jesse meant.
His may have been a misstatement. It said
Well, that's
his
what I'm
area.
thinking, but because a personal property ditch, and you're a county employee, and you're getting paid gasoline for that, that's not right. I
Well, we
mean, we know
certainly
that.
need to get clarification.
but it's a county ditch.
Yeah,
Whether it's beside, going down your mile, it's still a county ditch. And so when you're saying my ditch, yeah, it's technically it's the county's.
County's ditch, but
That-
if you're the farmer that owns that ground, that's getting mowed and maybe yours isn't. That's what
Right,
I'm,
and
that's
that's
what I
the
would be
question
upset
that
with,
I
yeah.
brought up, so, yes.
We
Yes.
still will check into that,
Okay.
and we'll clarify that. Because there have been other use of county equipment and stuff on private property, and so it all kind of goes into the same package. So, okay, Linda, thank you, we'll be in contact.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, Janine.
I have nothing about ditches.
Ah, that's okay.
Are we somewhere in? Nope.
Yep.
Good
Oh, no.
afternoon. I promise I will be short. Today we're doing driver's license testing on the new system. There will be one more test, and then in October we will go live with it. And also at the same time, through Pay It, I think citizens can go in and renew their driver's license online. So it will be interesting to see how that works. So I'm gonna have to go in and play with that and see if I can figure out how that works, so. That's if there's, no change, and all this stuff, so. It will be an interesting situation.
Who's doing the testing today?
Huh?
Who's doing the testing today?
Everyone in the office.
Everyone?
Well,
So-
I haven't had my chance, but.
Okay, but they're going through a test from the state, is that what they?
Yeah, we're testing this system. What they wanna do is have somebody on each machine in the state going all the time to make sure that they have the right capacity and that everything works smoothly.
For a driver's license?
Is that for the actual ID, driver's license?
Mhm.
That's what you're referring to?
Yeah, when you come in and renew your your driver's license, get your
And is that the one that gives a star on it or
the gold
something?
star
then?
ID, that's
Okay.
part of that too.
Okay. Okay.
And one thing we did find out, okay, we had been requiring, on the Gold Star ID, that brought up something I thought of, and they are now allowing us to use social security cards that are laminated. So, that is a breakthrough because I think most everyone has laminated, except me, is laminated.
You just have to have so much ID, you have to have so much paperwork to get that. They even want birth certificates and stuff, just if you need a driver's license.
What
to
you're
go with
doing
that.
is you're proving you as an individual, you as a citizen, you as a resident. So it does take a lot of,
Birth certificate don't cover everything though?
well, not if there's a name change involved,
Oh, name change, I see.
so. Now, if you have a passport, you've already proved all that, so all you need is then your proof of residence, so.
It'll be interesting, won't it?
It will be interesting.
Janine, does an expired passport work for that?
Expired, that, they keep saying a valid passport, so I don't,
Doubt it then.
I would
Well, I
doubt it.
know an expired passport is okay for, in the past has been okay for proof of citizenship for voting, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it is for you.
That's another question I'll find out about. Sometimes, if it's a period of time. So we'll have to find out on that one.
Grace period.
And then, so far the digitally printed plates, that system seems to be working. People are receiving their plates. We had a few snafus on the wrong county, but that's an easy fix. We go in and mail them out to proper county ID. So it's working so far.
Very good. Okay. Is that all you have?
That's all I have. You have some questions of me?
Do you have any questions? Do you have
Couple
any
of questions.
Go for it.
You know, as you know, you probably, you may not have seen our audit report, but it did show up the lapse of deposit coverage we had on several occasions.
Mhm.
follow up, make sure that that's not gonna be a problem again, because I understand, I can understand the 1 or 2 days, but we did have a 7-day lapse.
Well, okay. Things have changed. It used to be that at the end of the year, if you were over, that was considered a violation. Then it became every month. And then it became what you had at the end of the day. Now it's the high point anytime during the day. Well, even if I'm moving money out, we're still showing as being over coverage, because at one instance, before the money went out, and depending on the bank, some of them show all the paid ins and then all the paid outs. Some of them show all the paid outs and then all the paid ins. So, in my defense, there are problems with that. And finding out in May, we will probably have some that will show as being over, up until I found out that they're now using whatever is the high point of the day. So, we are working on it. We're keeping a spreadsheet. We're trying everything we can. Other than asking the banks to cover twice the amount of pledges we have. I mean, the money we have in there, because like on payday, it's not unusual to have $1 million moving in and out of the bank. On distribution days, sometimes it's 12 billion. You know, they move in and they move out. But, so, we're working on it. We're trying everything we can think of.
What are some of the options that we have, you know, right offhand? What are some of the options that we have to correct that?
Well, like I say, I'm keeping a spreadsheet, and during the peak seasons, I'm checking the bank balance all the time. So, that, and what it shows is, but that's checking it online, and that's showing at that moment.
And that would be basically with one bank though.
I check all of them.
But I mean, where you're getting a lapse would be on the one that you have your daily account, correct?
Well, we have 3 of them that we check all the time, that we use most of
I
the
mean,
time.
so could we ever require that the bank that's handling that type of activity provide excess deposit coverage as part of their bid to get the business? Or are we asking for bids, or are we just rotating it between the 2-3 banks in Marion?
At this point in time, we're rotating it, so.
Well, isn't that something that would be pretty easy to do? The bank not to do it, but, I mean, that would cover us.
Well, how much excess coverage do you want them to have?
Well, that would be up to you. That would be your determination. But that way we.
Does it cost us extra money to do that, Ken?
Yeah, it does.
Do you know roughly what,
No,
depending on how much
I don't know
you
what
ask
that
for,
cost
right?
is, but
The
I mean,
percentage?
if it's a minimal amount, it would cover, it would be covered.
But it's the bank's cost, not our cost, so.
Well, that's what I mean, but the banks are not gonna want to do that, just from a business point of view, because it costs them money. But, you know, they also are benefiting from large deposits that they can do something with on a daily basis. It's not just gonna be loaned out. So I'm not sure that that's not appropriate. Just throwing it out there.
I'll visit with our working bank this year and see.
I don't know if this would be proper, but I know we have a commissioner that's been in the banking business with that. But, I mean, I'd like to help you on making maybe a possible motion to them, or not a motion, but an offer to them to cover this, to say that we'd like our money covered, whatever it costs. And I don't know how to state it, Ken, I'm just stating that.
It's pledged, and it's exactly
And a lot
what
of,
you need.
you know, I don't know about public entities, but I know a lot of school districts actually have put their account out for a bid process. And if you had a bid process, part of that process, part of that bid package would
Could be that,
include
yeah.
excess deposit insurance.
I will state, Janine, don't let me tell a lie now, because I don't plan on telling a lie, but this seems to be a problem of quite a few years, to try staying on top of it. And so, if we could, at any time we could eliminate it, I'd like to try eliminating it. I mean, that's what I'd like.
That's the simplest way to do it, because anytime you've got multiple people involved in that process, which you do on both sides, you know, I'm not saying you're gonna have a lapse of 7 days, but you're always gonna have the 1 or 2 or 3,
Yeah,
probably.
you know.
You
there's-
can't get around that, I
Yeah,
understand that.
Yeah. And we have cut that to a minimum, so.
Yeah. And my-
But if you wanna, look up some way, I can approach our bank and see what it's worth trying.
See what kind of response you get. And then my other question is, the competitive bid process, is that going pretty well now?
It's been going real well, except for the month I was in and out of the hospital, and it didn't get carried through as good. We'll be back at it again, so.
Because my guess is if those don't get competitively bid, you're gonna end up with a really low rate for another 90 days, 6 months, whatever it's gonna be. So that really is costing the county by not getting being competitive on those.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame the bank, I want it as cheap as you can get it.
But yeah, not all banks are participating.
Right.
But some that choose to, we have been moving money around. So.
And there has been an increased rate, I'm sure.
Right.
And that should continue in that direction from what I see. And
Bidding with that excess coverage at the same time, just a really good idea. We have a fiduciary duty.
well, I mean,
ourselves.
it covers those lapses. That's what it's designed for.
And it's bank assets that get pledged, and yeah, and the trust departments.
I'm not that I'm
do
scared
all the time.
about a bank failing. I think most of the banks in Marion County are strong, but
Yeah.
we're just sitting here saying that.
Well, I don't like to be getting arrested from that.
Yeah, and that's what my goal is, to stop seeing that.
Yeah, we don't want
Yeah.
to see that ever again,
No.
so.
So you're gonna work on that. Any other questions, Ken?
No.
Randy?
No.
Okay, thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
So, we've come to the end of the agenda. Do you have anything for us? You've got
Yeah.
some folders there.
I'm gonna shorten this up a bit, I think, given the time of day, but necessarily do. This, yeah. This is something I didn't have his permission, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Clint had actually kind of drafted out, and I've been working with the articles and the bylaws in terms of the economic development services. They have a meeting tomorrow night, and I guess I just want to be sure we're collectively, in terms of the county commission, on the same page. This agreement that he put together can use some additional work, and he acknowledges that, but it kind of spells out, and for your review, he uses the term pay agent. But the most important part of this that I guess I wanted to raise and make sure we reiterated and heard again is we're creating what amounts to 2 new positions at the county level. Because both a director as well as that executive assistant would become county employees. This spells that out consistent with what we've been discussing, but we haven't done job descriptions unless, I haven't checked with Tina, so that's my fault. But to the best of my knowledge, we don't have those, and in terms of procedurally,
This says that MCC EDC agrees to take full responsibility in providing a written job description.
yeah, and that's raising that. They would be producing it, that you would then endorse, I guess. Or in the alternative, we produce it, give it to them because of the way it goes back and forth. They were created at the county's behest. They are serving as kind of the supervisory board, but these are your employees. They would then take control of supervision and all of that. And again, our whole function here is, in terms of what they wanted to do, was create the benefit element of it running through the county. They're still paying for it through their funds, and most of that is in here in some fashion or another. But that job description element of it, I guess I want to be sure that everyone's comfortable with. They'll create it, you'll review it and approve it, versus versus doing it the other way around, which is what we would typically do with a county employee.
That's what I'm in favor of.
And so I was gonna catch him this afternoon, because they have a meeting tomorrow night, and I was at this last week. I reviewed the articles. Articles are fine in terms of what the economic development group and the way it was created, but the bylaws may or may not need some changes depending upon what we do in that regard. If we're gonna treat it truly purely as a county employee, then I'm gonna have to make a couple of changes to those. If we're gonna leave it with them kind of running the show, and they create that, and then you guys serve as commissioners to limited oversight, approval, et cetera, and most importantly, we're gonna put them on the payroll, even with that reimbursement. I checked with Capers, I've had 2 long conversations with them, and I think that can be made to work. We just have to jump through their hoops to get it done. If it's purely a county employee, it's much simpler, but, I'll do it however we want to do that. And so I just want to be sure that I put something together that he then takes to them and they approve, and then we come back and go, wait a minute, that's not what we want to do.
So if we make it purely a county employee, then that means we're in charge of the person, right?
Yep. You can still serve, it's like any other ad hoc committee or that'd be more formalized than that, clearly. Have them serve as the day-to-day operational strategic planning group that director operates with in terms of goal setting and day-to-day operational kinds of activity, but everything would flow up to here.
But didn't they already take an action to do it the other way?
That's why I'm asking, because this, in talking with him, I just want to be sure that, because he's still wording it as county employee, which it is, but, we get that, we're at kind of a catch there. We don't have, they do the job description, then you're going to approve it. I want to make sure you're okay with that. If you're not, if you want to do it yourselves, like you would, you're hiring an EMS director. You've got a job description in place, and then you go ahead and assign certain things to them. But yeah, that would be different than the action that was originally taken as I read it and as I perceived it. That's probably very confusing, and I'm sorry, but I've been kind of going back and forth with this in terms of trying to make it work both ways.
I don't want to be writing up a job description. I think that's what they've been entrusted to do over time.
I don't think so. Personally, I'd rather have just be a county employee. I'd rather, I'm very nervous about giving a board the authority over everything and we just do pay. I'd like it to be under and maybe an advisory board. I think would be more reasonable.
It seems to me that you already took action to do the other way.
Yeah, the other way.
Yes, we did.
Okay,
When
I can look back in the minutes and verify, but it seems to me like you guys took that action when Clint was here last
Yeah.
time,
'Cause I
not to
asked him
do
to
it the
come
way,
to
this way, but to
Clint.
do it the other way.
Yeah, and that was the whole reason I asked him to come that day, to redo that presentation and ask for formal action, which is what was done. But now as we draw this up, we still have those pieces to it, and I'm just making sure, because they're gonna meet tomorrow night. And this generally can be made to work in terms of what he's done. We then, though, their job description would be written, and I think it would still come to them, because we really probably need it in the county records in terms of how that you guys have endorsed it.
Yeah, we've been
Well,
chatting
and
with-
yes, and it does say that they have to provide it, written.
Yeah, that was all written out, consistent with the discussion that day. But it's just a,
So what happens in a situation to where, I don't care, 6 months, 8 months down the road, or whatever the case may be, the board or whatever goes belly up, and then we have somebody here employed? What happens then?
we have someone employed, and then we'd have to act on
And we
it.
have nobody to dress them, or,
Yeah, basically, things would change again in terms of the supervisory element of it, it's a good question. In terms of the board currently serves in that role, and then if for some reason it goes defunct or disbands, obviously you'd be involved and aware of that, and the knowledge would be communicated, but then it would flow uphill, because it's really your employee. So it's not completely seamless, but it would work.
It still comes back to us to decide what we want to do.
Yeah, and you're still funding it, and so that element is there, but it's, again, on the other side of that, you're still funding it.
And I guess what worries me too is, the board is not consistent. They've had so many comes and goings of people. It's already unstable. There's no continuity there yet as far as people. I mean, you still have to appoint somebody.
Supposed to be someone there tomorrow night.
And you're working on somebody. But all through the beginning of this, I mean, we've had appointments and resigned, we've had appointments. And I don't know what the new director is it's gonna have a change of boards all the time, how that person's gonna feel about that.
Hope not. We'd like to see the board stay
Well,
together.
we'd like to, but,
And I still feel, Diane, that if worse comes to worse, that we, the funds don't have to go. That's what I'm saying from
yeah,
us.
and I'd like to get it before worse comes to worse.
Well, I hope it don't happen. That's,
So I have one other question, just to clarify. When we say benefits, we pay in benefits. Now, in this particular case, for example, I'll use this, a single employee pays, depending on the package that they use, about $95 a month for the insurance. But the county then pays the remaining $500 or whatever it is for the total cost. Am I to understand that the MCC EDC will actually pay $600 to the county because they're going to pay the whole
The whole amount.
insurance cost?
That's my understanding.
Salary and benefits would come back, flow back to us, that's what I understand.
And the same way with every other benefit that we're providing, they will pay the 100% cost.
Yep, that's my understanding. Reimbursed County, if you look in the, doesn't have them numbered, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph down, it's counting from the very first paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Said directive shall be accompanied with a check from MCC EDC to reimburse county for all costs incurred. And we can reiterate that more fully if you wish, but in the one right above it, he spells out the general anticipation of what's going to be paid, including their business transportation expenses. The whole thing flows through the county, and everything that's paid out, as I understand it, comes back, unless I'm missing something from what he and I have discussed.
I don't think they would intend to make us pay for any more. I mean, the way I understood the original proposal was just a flow-through, and whatever's spent comes back, and that would be what you're talking about, Diane, the
And
share that the
business-
county pays for their insurance and stuff like that.
Business transportation expenses, the county will pay that?
No.
No.
I mean, all costs incurred would
That
be
they're going
reimbursed,
to
yeah.
reimburse us?
Yes.
Okay. for
We were just trying to come up with a
transportation.
list, because in terms
A lot
of
of
what,
times, some of those things are paid through payroll,
Yeah.
either as a net adjustment or as a taxable benefit, depending on. And so anything that's paid to that person will then be reimbursed by the organization.
Okay. So this is just a draft, just for our information?
yeah.
Okay.
He had put that together, and I think it was trying to move it along. And I don't blame him, because I was looking more at the bylaws. And then I said, well, you know, in some type of a general agreement, a memorandum of understanding, some form of an agreement, so that there's something in writing that we can put in the file here, and we understand what's being contemplated would be really useful, and we kind of came up with this. So I thought it would be useful to share that in case there was anything more, or any other questions that still arose that we hadn't talked about at that last meeting.
Is there anything that stands out to you that,
No, my biggest concern was making sure that we weren't gonna get crossways with anybody in terms of our treating them as an employee, but yet having this supervisory role assigned. But again, that's just what's being happens, or what happens, is it's being assigned, so it still is flowing through the county, and treating them as an employee really cleans this up for us. What I really didn't care for, or where I was having all kinds of problems, was if it was a EDC employee in the purest sense, which oftentimes they are, but somehow we were just still gonna be attached to this and run it through our benefit package. Well, without that employment status, it makes it pretty hard for Tina or anyone else to be able to justify that if we get audited, as we always are, and be able to say, this is how we're doing this. We needed a paper trail of some kind, which is what they're trying to create here. And that they were gonna be an employee in terms of what we're calling them.
okay?
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The only other one, I guess I'm gonna do this more generally, it involves, we have several, in terms of planning and zoning, several properties that are, in theory, not in compliance, and notices have been provided, and those notice times have run. They've reached the end of the trail. It comes down to a point now where there's really not a lot more that planning and zoning can do in terms of notices. You need to get a renewed permit, for example, or you need to go ahead and take action in certain ways because we haven't authorized a variance, for example. They then get to the point of some form, in terms of your code, of injunctive relief, which means that my phone rings. And what I intend to do in terms of, this is my first one out of the gate with these, with Marion County, is to send a letter, again, one more through me, and it it's kind of a 10-day spelling all of this out, and that there's been no response, and it appears we're not getting any kind of compliance effort being made, and that needs to be done within a certain period of time, where I'll go ahead and notify the appropriate authorities, including the commission, and then proceed on, and it'll become a form of litigation, because at that point I'm going to have to get court orders to enjoin further activity, which is, in one case, I think, continue to go on.
Okay.
So that's I don't have to do that, but I wanted you to know that I typically try, and I say right in these letters typically, that it's the county commission's wish and desire to work with citizens in the county and to try to do these things in a mutually agreeable way. However, we are still charged with the duty to enforce, and if you're not going to do these things, we don't have any choice but to proceed. But that's what the extra time is for, just to give them one more shot at, so we're not somebody that gets something in terms of the sheriff knocks on the door. So that's the plan, unless I get some form of indication to the contrary that no, just hit them. You know, because usually everybody wants to try to give them another shot before we do that. And they've had several already. I mean, it isn't as though planning and zoning has been really pretty good at working with them. So we're just at that stage, unfortunately.
Would that be of a turn down of request to the zoning appeals, or would that be, when you say that they haven't complied, is it a violation of our planning and zoning rules?
Yeah, in the one instance, we have a number of violations and a lapsed permit, and the indication was really you need to come in and take care of that. We need to come out and do an inspection. No response of any kind. There's a 15-day window in which to do that after that letter goes out. I instructed that that letter go out when I was talking with planning and zoning about it. That's passed now by about 5 days, the deadline on it. The other one is more direct. It's the appeal has been made and not granted. So something needs to happen. In one case, something needs to stop happening. In the other case, something needs to happen. So that's
Yay and nay, huh?
Yeah, that's where I'm headed.
Okay. No, I appreciate you trying to get along with them.
Yeah, I think it tends to work out better in the long run if we at least give them that option. Sometimes someone will say, all right, fine. I'm not optimistic in one case. This time, but we'll take a shot.
Very good.
Okay, I think those are the only two that were kind of both on a timeline today. The others are late. So.
Okay. I seen in here, Tina, you have a lot of information on the accounting.
That's what Jamie brought over.
Okay, and
That's
I
the
had-
information I've been waiting on, so.
Oh, okay. Can I take it and
I can make a copy if you'd
that
like
would be
it.
fine, because I've never seen it. And I would like to have a copy of it so I can just look at the accounting. I know this right here
Mhm.
is close to,
That all goes together.
yeah, okay, so there you go. And the rest of this I just read. I don't think that's something different. Did you get a chance to look at this?
Nope.
Does anybody else want a copy of this? Right
It's
now,
just
or-
accounting on EMS, that's all.
I can just leave it in the mail folder and you can look at it when you have time, after I get a copy for Diane.
Okay. So, do you have anything else then, Brad?
I do not
That's it?
today.
Okay. Does anybody from the public have anything that they want to say at this particular time? Nothing? I'll make a motion to.
I was just wondering if you wanted to discuss any personnel issues. Seems like there was something over the weekend that you were wanting to discuss with the board, and so is that something you still want to discuss with the board, a personnel matter?
Well, what I was concerned about was brought to my attention about in Peabody, the fact that a lot of the EMS people, I don't know whether they were EMTs or paramedics, what they were upset about Bob Church being appointed interim and threatened to quit and all that other type of stuff. And so I didn't know how far it was gonna go. It sounded pretty drastic, especially on Facebook. And I don't get on Facebook, but I've had people call me and tell me to go to Facebook. I had some Facebook things sent to me that was said, which was pretty dramatic. I thought, wow, this thing's gonna really explode. So I wanted to actually talk to the commission about that. What do we do? And personally, myself, when they threaten to quit, let them quit. You know, because then they're not a team player. You know, because this is just an interim.
So are you wanting to have an executive session to talk about this issue or not?
No,
at this
I'm
point?
not going to
Okay.
have an executive session. I'm just
Okay.
going to bring this out.
Okay.
But you know, just in
This is
general,
personnel?
I'm talking in general. So in general, when you have people threatening to quit, I mean, how far do we want to go with that?
Well, it seems to be, you heard it on Facebook, right?
No, I saw it.
Saw
I
it on
didn't hear
Facebook.
anything
Okay.
on Facebook. But, and I didn't go to Facebook. I had people email and text it to me.
You have Facebook too, yourself.
I have Facebook, and yeah, I do. And I certainly never posted anything like that, if that's what you're referring to.
Well, I don't know, I've seen some of it, it was pointed out to me too, so I've seen some of it. I knew it wasn't gonna be easy. I knew that's what my last statement was, last week.
And Jamie had said too, that every time there's a change, you always have
Yeah.
these type of things. And she said some of them have been, said she went through 5 of them, and you had these type of things.
Right.
But there is one other thing that I did that comes to my mind. At some point in time, in this process of this interim thing, we had we have the director, Dr. Hodges, who is the medical director. And he came in and spoke to us and so on. When we do the interviews for the actual director, I'm sorry, not the interviews, but when we go through the resumes and select our choices, could you be a part of that? When we go
If need
through?
be, sure.
I would appreciate that, because there's been I know some people disagree with the way that we hire. I personally go totally by qualifications, and it has been insinuated that maybe that's not the right way to go, that maybe we should be appointing somebody that people can get along with. And I kind of have a real problem with that, so I want to make sure that I think as I read everything from HR, you need to go by best qualified. So I really think we need some guidance in that, need you to sit in with them and make those selections, if that's okay. So when we have all the applicants, what was our closing date on? Was that October the 5th?
Yeah.
Okay, so probably the Monday after that is something you might want to take some time out for that, if that's okay.
That's the thing, I was planning on, is that a county holiday?
No,
Is not.
only for
4 or 5?
judicial offices, not for anyone else.
That's all I know. So that should be fun.
We'll be here.
Yeah, I will do it, I guess.
Okay, all right, so that's great. Do you have anything else, Randy?
Yeah, I'd like 5 minutes executive session for personnel, please.
Okay.
Is there
All right.
a Monday holiday in
Or,
That's in November.
November?
There's in October, he was just asking about that. October 8th is a holiday, but only for the judicial offices, not for the county offices. It's Columbus Day.
Oh, I thought maybe all
But we
night
don't
in
have,
Washington for the hearing.
we don't have that as a holiday.
As a thought.
So, and Veterans Day is in November.
Okay, November. I knew that was coming up.
okay, so Randy requested that we go into executive session to discuss personnel, so I'm going to move that we enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters. Is it performance?
Yeah, personnel performance.
Okay.